All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. Today we got two questions on the menu. We're asking, are Europeans racist to other ethnics, meaning other than black, Africoid, Negroid of African origin, and or Black Americans, foundational Black Americans, and the like? That's the question. The answer, I think, is pretty clear. And then we're going to move on to what is Menehune mystery. What is that? The little people, the dwarfs. So, first and foremost, to understand racism, you have to understand two things. You have to understand the psychological logic behind racism. Now, what's important for foundational Black Americans to understand is this. This is going to sound crazy for me to say, but I mean it. It's not necessarily personal. What? Not necessarily personal. What do you mean? It's not. According to who? According to Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, the system of racism, white supremacy is predicated off of genetic survival, according to our dear fallen sister, Dr. Welsing. In brief, Dr. Welsing says that the Black genetic material has the strongest potential of genetic survival. And what that means is Black genes plus European genes equal Black genes. If you think about the United States of America, anybody, maybe a 90s baby, as early as a 90s baby, I'm an 80s baby. So if you think about it, in the 90s, I don't really remember the 80s for real. I remember the late 80s. But in the 90s, America almost seemed post-racial because blacks weren't perceived as a threat. Why is that? Well, according to Dr. Howard Zinn, an interesting device was created by the system of society, white supremacy, excuse me. Dr. Zen says that an ingenious device was created, and I'm paraphrasing him until I find the exact quote I'm looking for. But Dr. Zen said when the Irish came over and amalgamated into whiteness, the Irish women start choosing black men for mates, and the system saw the Irish, the women, for instance, the women start choosing brothers, and I found it. The system said we need to get the slaves under control. Well, I found the exact quote. So check this out. In 18, where is it? In 1802, I thought it was 1804, but it says 1802. According to Dr. Howard Zinn, quote, when the Brunswick Canal was built in Georgia, the black slaves and the Irish workers were segregated, right? Remember, stop right there. Remember that when the Irish came over in direct opposition to foundational black Americans starting to rise up, you remember you had Denmark Vesey and Gabriel Prosser and Nat Turner start turning up. The system of white supremacy start realizing, wow, we're losing control over these people. So they again use that weaponized immigration to gain control over us. They let the Irish come over here. The Irish were escaping a potato famine. They came over here starving half to death on boats, according to Dr. Howard Zinn, just like black people, just like some Africans did during the transatlantic slave trade. Dr. Howard Zinn said, basically says that the Irish were not white, and the Irish were came over here, realized they were in a fucked up position, and Irish women started being like, you know what, fuck this, I want me a brother. And Irish women started making babies with black men, with enslaved black men. So when the Brunswick Canal was built in Georgia, the black slave, according to Howard Zinn, the black slave and the Irish workers were segregated. According to Howard Zinn, quote, the excuse being that they would do violence against one another. So that was some bullshit excuse by the system of white supremacy that we need to keep them apart. They're going to kill each other. That was cap. This is the real truth. Check this out. Quote, that may have well been true, but Fanny Kimball, the famous actress and wife of a planter, wrote in her journal the following. According to Fanny Kimball, quote, but the Irish are not only quarrelers and rioters and fighters and drinkers and despisers of niggers, her words, not mine. Um, they are passionate, impulsive, warm-hearted, generous people, given to powerful indignations which break out suddenly when not compelled to smolder suddenly. Pestilent sympathizers too, with a sufficient dose of American atmospheric air in their lungs, properly mixed with the right proportion of ardent spirits, there is no saying what they might actually take sympathy with the slaves. You heard that? And quote, and I leave you to judge of the possible consequences you perceive, and I am sure that they can by no means be allowed to work together on the Brunswick Canal. Basically, what Fanny was saying is white Irish women would get a little of that whiskey in them and want them a brother and end up having mixed children. And the system of white supremacy said, oh, shit, we brought the Irish over here to keep these Negroes in control. And instead of keeping the Negroes in control, they making children with them. So something ingenious was born, according to Dr. Howard Zinn. Listen to what he says. Quote, the need for slave control led to an ingenious device, paying poor whites, themselves so troublesome for 200 years of Southern history, to be overseers of black labor and therefore buffers to black hatred. So basically, poor whites were put in positions of control over blacks. And that ideology, that mantra, kept the system of white supremacy intact until today. You know what I'm saying? If you look at most of your bosses on jobs, I mean, I don't even have to say it. Y'all already know where I'm going with this, right? So that's one reason. The racial structure was predicated upon Europeans having financial and supervisory superiority over blacks, right? And then that's one reason. And number two, here goes the main reason, according to Dr. Francis Cress Welsing. Francis Craig. Well, it's kind of related to what I just said. The Irish were having babies with the blacks. White plus black equals black. Barack Obama showed that to everybody. He had a white mother and an African father, and he looked blacker than I did. The keyword looked. Well, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing says that there's a deep genetic fear of annihilation in the European mind. Dr. Welsing says somewhere on some deep level, it's known that if black men were allowed to make children with European women, then the European pure white race, quote unquote, her words, not mine, would disappear. Now that establishes what racism is. It's a fear of annihilation at its root. But the question is, are European racists racist to other ethnics? I'm gonna say yes. Guys, the word white was created in diametric opposition of foundational black Americans. Before Europeans even came to the mainland, to the 13 colonies, now known as America, the United States thereof, Europeans did not know what white was. They were British, they were English, they were Irish, they were Italian, they were French, they were German, and they all fought each other. Guys that were fighting each other, they were using the slave trade to buy weapons to kill each other. So is that racism or ethnicism? I don't know. Wani, what do you think? Are Europeans racist to other ethnics?
Yes, they're ethnic bigots, very severely to the point of homicide. Um, yeah, that's what they were doing, and they continue to do so over here, where that's why we have all those triracial isolates, because the Swedish people were trying to stay away from them, and then they formed an area, and all of these people were trying to stay out of their way because they were very homicidal, and they didn't want others to lay claims. Remember when the Vikings said, "Hey, wait a minute, we have Viking settlements over there. We've been over there before some of the Native Americans, before the Navajo people got there." And when they said that, uh, our history books said, no, 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 they never reached, they didn't come over there, they were way over there. And that's not true. They were here along with other people. This is why people were running around saying that they were, some of the lighter skinned black people were saying they were Portuguese, Turkish. They wouldn't have said that if those people weren't here. So some, not a lot, some of those people were here. That's why they said they were Moors. That's why they said they were different types of people. But back to, are they racist? Not only are they racist, or what I would call ethnic bigots to one another, but it has a domino effect. Because when they're ethnic bigots to Italians and Jewish people and all these people, it makes them try to get brownie points harder. And so then you have an Italian popping up out of nowhere talking about, we created Dixieland jazz. And then you're like, who is this person? And it's somebody way over in Italy just talking out of the side of their butt. So when you get a lot of smoke from a lot of these ethnic people, yeah, they're ethnic. They're never going to be British. British is number one along with German, and they don't make the cut. They even tried to be Nazis. Italians tried to be Nazis, and so did Japanese people. They didn't make the cut. They would have slid them right in the oven with them if they didn't need to use them for something, but they can't see that because they're blinded by the need to try to be whatever that white thing is. Whatever that is, we'll never know.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, ladies and gentlemen, if you go back to the days of Hannibal Barca, Hannibal used a tactic of race mixing. A lot of tactics that's used on us have been used on them. That's the unfortunate truth. Y'all don't want to hear that. But Hannibal Barca went and uh, I'm not sure. I don't want to use the R word, but he let's just say his men amalgamated with the Southern Italians and the Spanish and Southern Italians have a high concentration of African blood. Joe Rogan said that on one of his podcasts. He got his blood test and he popped a certain percentage of African blood. Well, I'm saying they don't identify as black. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, according to our late great brother Dick Gregory, the German military, which was outstanding regimental soldiers, had a certain cadence that they would march to. They were almost like robots. They were damn near perfect in their marching. And when Mussolini tried to join his men with the Nazis, they couldn't even do it right. The Germans wouldn't let them march with them because they had too much black blood. They had too much soul to step like robots. You know, they had swagger in their steps, so they couldn't march with the Germans.
What?
So it's true.
What?
Yeah, they weren't allowed to march with the Germans because they couldn't get with that robotic symmetry that the Germans had. They would kind of have a little swag in they march, so they couldn't march with them, so they couldn't quite assimilate to whiteness. Now, that's a good distinction, Wani. Ladies and gentlemen, the European groups were fighting each other, and I want to spell something out really clearly in this space. I want everybody to know it from the mountaintops. Foundational Black Americans have been keeping European groups from killing each other for the last 300 years. We've been the focal point. Dr. Howard Zinn spells it out so clearly in A People's History. He says, quote, racial hostility became an easy substitute for class frustration on page 227. What does that mean? That means in the context of the Irish came to America starved half to death, filthy, diseased, and they were mad about their condition. But the system told them, don't worry about being filthy, don't worry about being hungry, focuses on those N words. And by focusing on foundational Black Americans, that gave them unity. What I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll say it from the mountaintops, is our persecution has given certain groups unity. They're unified. They disagree about everything else, but they agree that they want to destroy us, and that created the word white.
But they had mixed results because when I was doing some of my friends' backgrounds, they said, "Oh, I'm Native American, blah, blah, blah." And I said, "Okay, we'll just test it and we'll do your genealogy." Well, the person that they thought was Native American was really Irish with immigration papers, and her bloodline was not an African bloodline, but it was an Irish bloodline. And this is a typical Black American from Indiana. Um, and so her grandmother was an Irish woman who lied about being Native American. And she was married to a Black man that was Black and Native American, and they had a bunch of children. And she came from that family. So Irish women gave birth to a boatload of Black American children. So if you do your DNA and you see that, you'll know what happened. And sometimes they got ghost and are not listed in your genealogy, or you don't know about them. We don't know about these people. Um, I have a whole lot of missing great grandparents. I have about 6 that are missing. Um, and the other group, the Northern European women, that's like Norwegian, Finnish, Swedish, they grabbed themselves a Black man and went up into the Appalachian, you know, and made a whole nother group of people over there. And that's what they wanted to do. And again, because white wasn't a thing, people didn't bust their chops the way that they did in later days. Their children were ridiculed for being mixed, but those unions were not attacked as they were later in time.
I'm
Hello?
I'm talking through a mute again. I'm sorry. I was looking for a hierarchy chart to put in there, and I'll find it later on. There's in 1,000 pictures, but if you think of the picture of the king, the queen being at the top of the hierarchy chart, below them being the noble class, and below them being the knights or the police class to protect them against the rest of us. Below the knights, you have the serfs and the peasants. Peasants being at the bottom. That's European hierarchical thought. You think about it, most European jurisdictions from Italy to Spain to England to Germany are monarchies. For 1,000 years, Europeans persecuted themselves on 2 different levels. They persecuted themselves on an internal level. In England, the king is the land, and the land is the king. He has rights over everything. It's so deep that the king had first rights. What that means is, if you got married, once you married your wife in full public view, before you could go on your honeymoon, the king had the honeymoon with her first. That's fucking ridiculous if you think about it, but it was law. So the king had first rights to your wife. Well, anyway, My point in bringing that up is Europeans over time got sick of that because they could not sneak, they couldn't weasel their way into nobility. It happened every once in a while. Somebody would like a friend very well to make him a duke or a thane or a baron. But moreover, most of the time, barons and nobility, lords and ladies, was a bloodline thing. They were related to the king. You can't fake bloodlines. So Europeans had this desire, this thirst to be in the nobility class. They wanted to be ballers. They wanted to be worshipped like the rest of them, right? So that's what the New World was all about, ladies and gentlemen. The New World was supposed to be a place where you could go over here and just based on race, which was the first time in history that was ever thought of, based upon race, you were allowed to be nobility at our expense. When the Europeans came over here, they instantly became the noble class.
Ladies and
Yep.
sirs.
Matter of fact, Wani's right. Let me give you another title for nobility in America. The title was Goody. um, you were a goody if you were a noble. So when a noble white woman or a noble white man, excuse me, not black man, that slipped off my tongue, walked into a room of other white people, you had to address them as "Good morning, goody." Hello, good. If Wani was a goody, I'd say, "Good morning, goody spots. How are you doing, madame?" And you had to bow. And a derogatory term went towards them when they would walk off. Some of the whites would call them, "Oh, goody two shoes. She's a goody two shoes," because the goodies had two good shoes to wear. So that's where that came from. Well, the important thing to take away from that, ladies and gentlemen, is we became the peasant class. That was by design, and it's still trying to be force fed into American culture now. The reason why blacks are foundational Black Americans are demonized such and so much vitriol towards us is because we are keeping the system in place at the status quo as it is by being this fictitious peasant class. Now, other groups come over here starving half to death from India or from wherever with the hopes of just being in the serf class, just so long as they can manage us. That gives them status above us, so they're not the target. That's the name of the game. Now, is that reality? No, because foundational Black Americans are very successful. We're doing well. We're not peasants by any. We don't fit in the term peasant by any means, but the the media machine force feeds you this idea of a black peasant to keep the hierarchy in line. Now, Dick Gregory, and I'll shut up after this. Dick Gregory said when Barack Obama got elected, that's where a lot of this vitriol came from, because somebody, even though Barack Obama was not a foundational Black American, he was perceived as such by whites. And when whites saw a black man, and obviously looking black, even though he was mixed, he looked visibly black. He looked blacker than I did. When he got in office, that disrupted that whole ideology that Dr. Howard Zinn said, with, quote, "The need for slave control led to an ingenious device paying poor whites themselves so troublesome for 200 years of Southern history to be overseers of black labor and therefore buffers for black hatred." When Barack Obama got elected with a foundational Black American wife and two black children, that destroyed that silent deal that Dr. Zinn talked about, and the system of America, the social fabric, started to crumble. And we haven't really bounced back from that.
I don't know why all of that happened is a whole bunch of people got to go into the bathroom that shouldn't have been in there. Why is everybody mad? The only people should be mad is women who had to go to the bathroom.
That's an interesting question, Wani, and the answer to that is outrageously sad. The answer is there are many groups of non-blacks in America, from poor whites to others, who are happy living in squalor, living in absolute abject poverty and filth, just so long as they can say they're better than somebody, and that somebody has been targeted as the Black American. You're better than them. Now, the hurtful part is in the 60s and 70s, you had people come over like Shirley Chisholm. I just got through writing an article on her, who looked foundational Black American, but she wasn't. But she was operating under that same social invisible contract of You can come over here and you're going to be below us, but you're better than those foundational Black Americans. We've taken steps to eliminate that social contract by our actions of delineating. We're saying who we are, and it's causing all kind of havoc just by us saying, no, 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 I'm not. I don't fit in your box. I am this. Deal with it.
And then by the country voting to remove immigrants, that throws them into the peasant class. And that's also disrupting because some of the people being removed and rejected and drop kicked out of here thought that they were on a higher social level, even though I don't believe they are, but they might have thought that in some cases. In some places here and there, in pockets, a Cuban in Florida might think that he's on a better, higher level than a Black American, but overall, I do not think they are.
Yeah, that happened to me. I had my first little college job at University of Central Florida. It didn't last long, but when I was real young in 2005, and I went to Florida and last minute notice right after I graduated from college, and went to get a haircut. I couldn't find a Black barber shop, and I thought I found one because I saw that little, that candy cane with the little peppermint swirl. I was like, oh, there go a Black barber shop. And the dudes in there looked Black. They were darker than me. I was like, thank God. So I walked in there and sat down, and they all turned around and looked at me, and they were like, what do you want? With an accent. And I was like, oh man, I just want to cut. And they said something, oh, we don't cut your type of hair here. And yeah, yeah. My lady just gasped. But they said we don't cut your type of hair here. So we don't do that. You think we can cut your type of hair here? And I was looking at them. They had afros and shit.
What is your problem?
I was like, what the fuck, man? My hair. I'm not saying that any hair is better than another, but my hair is kind of it's. I got a curly afro. They had regular afros, and they told me they didn't cut my hair. But I stormed out that motherfucker and like said fuck you or something when I walked out. But I later found out that that barbershop was a Cuban barbershop, so they had been sold this bag of ideology that you may have came over here on a raft or whatever you did, but you're better than those Black Americans. That's game. That's pimp game, and it's starting to fade away. And the system, the hierarchy, this invisible social hierarchy, this social caste system in America is starting to crumble because we're not accepting that whole social hierarchy, especially with our young people. Our young people, Gen Z is not accepting it. We got look around, young people. You see young foundational Black American teenagers and early 20 somethings with purple hair and green hair dressing like an anime character. That's intellectual, you know? That doesn't fit into the thug mantra or the hoochie mama mantra. You got a whole bunch of Black kids across the country are anime. And I love it because they're saying, hey, I'm intellectual. I like anime. I don't deal with that. And the country is really struggling. The power structure in the country is struggling with that. They're like, no, 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 no. A foundational Black American, I need you to be at the bottom. I need you to be at the bottom. But no, they're saying, no, 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 no.
And we've always been that way. We've always been, all different types of things nerds, Urkels, athletes, musicians, good in school, bad in school, all kinds of things. We're very, we participate in a lot of trends as well.
Yeah.
So anime would be something that we would be interested in.
And I think another thing, Wani, that's contributed, like you said, it's always been, I agree with that. I've always been around intellectual Black kids. Even in the 90s, when I was a kid in grade school in the early 2000s, it was still kind of uncool. People used to call me white boy because I was taught the way I do. I've always kind of taught this way. And oh man, he acting white, man. So it was kind of cool to not to act like you were stupid back in the day. But it was a large group of us that were just like me. But the difference, y'all, is it didn't people like me didn't get pressed. There was Urkel, but he was made out to be lame, right? But people like me and intellectual Blacks didn't get pressed back then because the press, the corporate press, which was still mainstream, was force feeding the ideology that Black men were thugs. What did Joe Biden say? Super predators or some shit?
Yeah, but they started all of that. If you are, who invented all those words?
They did.
Nerd, geek, egghead. Bookworm, they're the ones who told everybody that it was not cool to be good in school. Remember Fonzie?
That's a good point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you probably don't. But Fonzie's whole character was I'm on a motorcycle, I'm cool, you guys are nerds. Ron Howard and whatever the other guy's name is, Potsy and whatever, they were the nerds because they were just regular people going to school. They started all that and then they put it on us. We don't have anything to do with it. We're just going along with American norms, and we shouldn't do that because we prized going to school. We valued it. And I have pictures of people going to school in broken down churches, and right after, or right after those plantations were liberated, people started educating themselves on their own. They were not even told to do this. They would go inside of these burnt down, broken buildings and start getting educated, reading, writing, and arithmetic. So we prized learning. We were told not to do that. So, of course, when you're told not to do something, you want to do it. It's a whole new world to know how to read and write when you didn't know how to do that. So, we were very interested in it. This is something that this country thought was cool. And if you go look at some movies in the 50s, all they do is insult people that are smart. I mean, film noir is just them being kind of thuggish and edgy and making fun of people that are not thuggish and edgy.
Yeah, what you said was real powerful. One is you hinted at the fact that black women created the public school system. This shit is ridiculous. I'm looking for a quote right now from Claude Anderson in a book I usually don't read from that often, where Claude talks about how basically black women, um, okay, he says, quote, national, according to Claude Anderson in Dirty Little Secrets, he says, national public schools were mandated by law after Civil War, but they are profoundly different in both quality and quantity between blacks and whites. The country needed new schools to educate and acculturate the large number of European immigrants and their children who were pouring into the country. As the national economy expanded, it generated white collar and semi skilled jobs for these new citizens. The opposite was true for Black Americans who were still subordinate and outside the social system. Worse, following emancipation, no measures were taken to identify the psychological, social, and economic educational damage done for 260 years of slavery. Basically, what Claude is saying in this long passage is we as enslaved people had skills. Somebody needs to make a movie about that shit. And in the slave trade, people, when you see slaves, you see somebody in the garden or out in the field with a hoe, like beating the shit out of some ground, or in the kitchen fixing tea. That was only a small part of the slaves. Do y'all know slaves were engineers? Slaves were architects. Benjamin Banneker was a fucking architect, for Christ's sake. He designed Washington, D.C. Enslaved Africans or enslaved blacks, native blacks, according to Dr. Claude Anderson, had very sophisticated jobs. We did. What Claude Anderson was talking about with national schools were mandated by law was to train immigrants to do the jobs that we were doing. That's why you have these unions that are managed by people of European descent, where they block black people out, like the electricians union and such, because whites were being trained to take the jobs that we did for free under the slave system, and we were propagandized to believe that we didn't have any skills, which we did. But back to the point of what I was saying earlier, black women um, created the public school system during the
Yes, we
Reconstruction.
were always interested in education. And like I mentioned before, my grandmother, part of her job was to get a lot of these immigrants to put their children in school because they would have their children stay at home shoeing horses and working on the farm. And yeah, some of them were Italian and they didn't want their children to go to school. That was a big thing that she wrote about.
Yeah, yeah, and but we were so smart, Wani, I'm torn on these statistics given by Claude Anderson. I believe the statistics are right, but I think something was not said. I think we already knew how to read. We were just scared to let people know we knew how to read, because if they found out you could read, they would kill you. Claude,
Right.
yeah, Claude Anderson said, while a pianist system was being prepared for blacks with the school system, the new public policies introduced them to separate and inferior public schools. Claude doesn't say that that public school system was created by black women. Thank you. But even under these poorest of educational conditions, this is according to Claude Anderson. This is not my quote. Quote, blacks were able to reduce their illiteracy rate from 98% in the mid 1860s to 40% in the 1900s. So in 40 years, we went from damn near 100% illiteracy, couldn't read, to only 40% couldn't read in 40 years. It's ridiculous. By 19,
Well,
go ahead.
don't forget, we created a whole new language so we could speak to each other without the European knowing what we were saying. A
Mm.
lot of times, people, that's the language tut. And a lot of times, people did know how to read and write because guess who was ripping you off? So, if you had a person who was enslaved and you sent them to the store to get some groceries, which according to some of these stories, that's what was happening. They were sending them to get things like get, some whatever. And they could, if they couldn't read the list, they wouldn't know if the store owner actually gave them those things. So they had to know because the other white people would rip them off and would give the it could be anybody. It could be a servant, it could be a slave, it could be anyone. Those people had to know how to function with other people because white people would rip them off. So they'd have to know what they were buying.
Yeah. And that to support what Wani just said, in 1920, the black literacy rate, 1920 is a key year. The foundational Black American literacy rate was damn near, was 80%. We went from 100% illiterally, rounding it off, to 100% literacy in fucking 50 years. But let's look at 1920. What happened in 1920? In 1920, Rockefeller, with his organization, took over, co opted medicine and education. I'm going to leave medicine alone for this space, but it's coming. Just wait. In education, Rockefeller rewrote the schools of education, rewrote the books, because the books used to actually tell the truth. In my view, 1920 was critical because that was a year where Woodrow Wilson got in, with the help of some turncoats like W.E.B. Du Bois, um, got black people to vote him in. And Woodrow Wilson triggered the Great Migration by using Irish immigrants to lynch us and scare us out of the South into the North. That's why black people live in Chicago. That's why black people live in Detroit, Ohio, and New York, and the like. There was a migrationary pattern. And Los Angeles, actually, people from Louisiana, Arkansas, and west of the Mississippi went to Los Angeles, whereas people from my home state of Alabama went to Chicago and Motown. People from South Carolina, North Carolina went to New York City, et cetera, et cetera. That's why James Baldwin's family was from the Carolinas. I think he was from the Carolinas, but anyway, the point of me bringing this up is uh, the Rockefeller Foundation took over education and morphed it to where, because had to alter it because black people, foundational black Americans, were shooting up like a rocket. What I'm trying to identify, people, is every time we have a spike, every time we start growing, the system of white supremacy gets in a think tank and it implements roadblocks to hamper or destroy our growth. And I feel like we're getting to a point of exponentially, we're coming together and we're trying to regain our dignity and regain our intellectual prowess. And I'm looking to see what the system's going to implement to try to hamper it, or if it can. The key to all this liberation that we're dealing with is Twitter and social media, because the corporate media system, the American people, not just black Americans, the American people have absolutely lost faith in your CNNs and your MSNBCs and corporate news. We don't trust it anymore. And I used to watch it religiously. I almost speak for myself, One of the reasons I don't trust it anymore is from watching it during the elections of Donald Trump, watching inconsistencies during that, and also watching inconsistencies during the pandemic. But I'm gonna leave that alone because y'all already know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I used to think CNN was the gold standard. I did not expect to get incorrect news from CNN maybe about 10 years ago, but now they have lost their minds and I can't watch any of those news. I just don't watch any of them now. I don't even know what I'm doing because they're just too biased. I, I mean, all of them, even the AP, what is it, Associated Press?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, I have seen them all have problems, and they can never recover from what I've seen.
A lot of truth is coming out on social media because we become our own reporters, we become our own news, and it's kind of changing the system. Even the New York Times, according to Professor Chris Hedges, who's a Pulitzer Prize winning reporter who worked for New York Times for a large portion of his adult career, according to him, the Times used to be very accurate, but according to Chris, things have changed at the Times. So we just don't trust corporate media anymore. I think during the pandemic, we saw too many inconsistencies, and we were like, "What? Wait a minute! Why are you telling me this? You're telling me one thing, but I'm watching another." So the people have turned to social media for their news, and in the Black world, that's been an excellent thing because we get to we get to face each other and bounce ideas off of each other. So in that respect, Twitter or X has been a blessing to us. So, Europeans racist to other ethnics? Absolutely. We have to look at history, ladies and gentlemen. History will erase the mystery. If you look back before the transatlantic slave trade, with the question, we don't ask enough questions as a people. The questions we need to ask ourselves is why did they need the transatlantic slave trade? I.e., what did they need money for? When you ask questions, what did Neely Fuller say? The universe will send answers to you. You ask that question, and the answer is very simple. The reason why Europeans needed money from that slave trade was to fight each other. The English were fighting the French, brutal warfare, killing each other. So, if you want to call that racism, I don't know if racism fits into that equation, but
Ethnic bigotry.
ethnic bigotry, yeah, and hell, look at Ukraine and Russia. They're related, and they blowing each other, blowing up.
Millions killed, millions.
Right. But that doesn't get pressed. They didn't get news in the press, you see? But one brother in Chicago shoots a Glock at a dude who sold him some bad dope, and that's all over the news. But you got a missile launched at a Ukrainian hospital that kills pregnant women, and we don't hear about it. That's not important.
I mean, we had one of the guys, one of the soldiers at a checkpoint just shot a 9-year-old girl in the head for fun, just to terrorize everyone in the car. So they're doing a lot of brutal things over there. They're going against the Geneva Convention. Um, they're doing atrocities. And we're going to be, not me, but we as a world are going to be talking about this forever once the dust clears because there's going to be pits of bodies and it's just going to be another human disaster.
The media, yeah, Wani, the media system just fucking amazes me with the hypocrisy. You're focusing on crime in Chicago, which I'm hearing from my brothers and sisters may not even exist like that. I've been to Chicago about 3 times, and every time I've been to Chicago, it's been just drop dead gorgeous. It's the cleanest big city I've ever seen in my life. I don't remember any crime happening when I was there. I haven't been there a lot. I've been to the airport 1,000 times, but um,
People like to associate black people with crime. Um,
Right.
Chicago is highly FBA and cultured. You don't have to know anybody to live there or just to hang out there. You find somebody to talk to. If you're sitting on the street and some music comes on, you're all just gonna all start dancing together. It's just a culture. It's just a mood there. I hadn't seen any crime there either, but I did see FBAs standing up for themselves and standing together there, and people don't like that, so they try to paint a negative picture of the city. I love Chicago. I worked there part time. Sometime I spent a lot of time there.
Yeah, and when I think of Chicago, I do not think of crime. I think of deep dish pizza and hot dogs with some type of sauce on it that's badder than a
Yeah,
motherfucker.
Chicago has the best pizza. It's
Pizza.
kind of like, yeah, yeah, they have the best pizza there. But it's very fattening.
It's thick, huh?
It's like deep dish. It's like a bowl of pizza.
Yeah, it's like it's almost like a biscuit, like a pie. And some of it's so good you don't even have to have cheese on it. It could be just be some good sauce and the bread. But I'll digress.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So the question is, why are they showing some mystery crimes in Chicago, which our dear brother Dick Gregory said may not even be committed by us? And Dick Gregory identified that some of these drive-by shootings in Chicago are really more of an organ harvesting type of thing. Hint, hint. Um, why is that getting coverage? When I other day I watched a video of a Ukrainian and or maybe a Russian. It was some one of them in a tank in a APC armored personnel carrier with a 20 millimeter cannon. That's a anti-material weapon. That's not anti-people. That's made to shoot down airplanes and shoot cars and armored trucks. Has high explosive rounds in it. I watched a dude laughing shoot at a lady. It was a fucking lady riding. It was actually terrible. She was riding her bicycle home, and one of them soldiers targeted her on the bicycle with an anti-material weapon and blew her to bits. Why is that not over the goddamn news?
Well, they don't have a lot of good solve rates, correct? So they don't know who's doing what. They have a lot of unsolved cases and they have a lot of immigrants too running around. So we don't know
Mm.
who's doing what at this point. And they
Yeah,
also have that thing where they're wearing a black mask that looks like they're black. They're doing a lot of stuff out there.
Wow. Yeah.
yeah. A few years ago, there was somebody caught it on video, and ironically, okay, so there was this man that had a black mask that was walking around, and he shot somebody, and they caught it on video. This was Chicago. Now, for some reason, that story was buried. Nobody ever heard anything else about it. It's obvious that it wasn't a black person, but I remember Tariq had been telling us about this. Tariq, and I didn't realize because I didn't realize that Dick Gregory was saying the same thing, but Tariq had been telling us that he doesn't think that these are black people committing these crimes. If you ever take the train there, there's a lot of pimps and things like that, and there's a lot of people who end up come up missing, and I'm talking about white pimps, Hispanic
Do
pimps.
they dress well like the others?
Some of them dress regular,
I'm
but
just doing this for research.
you are hilarious, Wani. Um, but you got me. But there's a lot of people, a lot of stories about people who go to the train station they end up missing. So there's a lot of issues like organ harvesting, trafficking, all types of stuff going around. So that they try to blame black crime that has nothing to do with black people. The only thing that has something to do with black people is that the black people are the victims of what's happening to us. They're using that to victimize black people.
So you're saying the train station is an area where this is happening?
Oh
A
yeah.
lot of the
Oh yeah.
crimes? Because
Yeah, where people are coming up missing. Yeah.
it used to be if you were a young girl and you ran away from home, you'd get off on the train station and maybe some pimp would slide up to you and try to, do whatever. So now they just take your organs? Is that what's happening?
I'm not saying that they just take your organs, but they'll
They
walk up
trick
to
you
you and
into
they'll walk up to you and say, "Hey, ma'am, are you lost?" or something like that.
mm-hmm.
And they'll start trying to talk to you. And then with me, like when times when somebody has walked up to me or something like that, I'll hurry up and go walk into a crowd with a lot of people. But I keep seeing on the news there about people that were taking a train somewhere and they never came back. And these are women of all different ages. Sometimes it's
That
men.
sounds suspicious.
Yeah, it's a lot of mess going on. So never let somebody just tell you, "Oh, all this crime is going on. This quote black on black crime
Hey,
going on in
Sister
Chicago.
Nikki.
This black on black crime going on in Chicago." That's that's just not true. I'm sorry, Mickey. Go ahead. I apologize. Go ahead.
Nah, I just y'all can drop me right after. I just wanted to ask when you said about the crime, like how you see all them big shootings every holidays, like in Chicago, for instance. Like even Mark Carter, he said that some of the people in the hood, they got wise. They put ring cameras in the park for one of these last year for a couple holidays or whatever and shit. Like I think it was New Year's and Independence Day and all that stuff. Not Independence Day, but around that time they put ring cameras in the park, and sure enough, they see the police in an unmarked car pull up, and they was doing a shooting. And guess what they did? They swept it under the rug and locked the person up that put the ring cameras in it. Ask Mark about it.
Well,
Yeah, it's the same shit. It's like you gotta think about it. Look at it like this. Here's how easy people become missing. Say I'm getting pulled over, right? And you driving by and you just like, oh damn, he about to get locked up. And everybody just keeps pushing and no one pays attention. The whole time the cop, he could be cuffing you and about to take you to one of his homeboys. They throw you in the back of a pickup, put a string around your neck, put you around a tree, and just pull off. Whole time you just thought it was another black person getting locked up with some traffic violation, some shit. No one pays attention to it. But I land, you could drop me.
Oh yeah, that's very fascinating. Dick Gregory. Now Dick had a lot of money, and he would put one thing I love about Dick Gregory is he put money into research. He didn't just he Dr. Welsing said she would bump into him at the same newsstand in D.C. buying up every news every morning to read every single news to find out what was going on. But Dick was saying, and I'm paraphrasing him, but he was talking about the statistics. He hired a scientist to do statistics on the amount of black kids nationwide who were getting shot in drive-by shootings. And I forget the percentage. I don't want to lie on Brother Gregory, but a large percentage of the kids who were getting shot were getting hit in the head. And he was like, Dick was like, man, I was in the army. You can't shoot nobody in the head. And he's basically said, we can't shoot anyway. He's like, we're not shooting people in the head. How are all these headshots happening? He said he argued that given the fact large portion of these murders were headshots, that it was an organ harvesting thing. Yep.
Wani, I know you had a lot of questions to ask about the organ harvesting. Do you think that's far fetched? That that's what's happening when these people come up
no,
missing? Okay.
no, I don't. I just feel like times have changed because the most, it used to be you knew what was going to happen. You knew that somebody would try to approach you at the bus station. You knew that, but now you don't know why people are approaching you. And there's a lot of things going on: serial killers, organ harvesting, uh, whatever. Pimps are the least thing to worry about.
And they're the most persecuted. I was listening to what was a guy named the pimp named Gorgeous Dre. He had a TV show or for a little bit on YouTube, a little show, and Gorgeous Dre was like, he said when human trafficking, he said when that charge came out, a lot of people got out the pimp game because it just sounded terrifying. He said human trafficking, what the hell is that? He said I ain't never did none of that. Just the way it sounded scared a lot of pimps away from playing the game.
Yeah, they would get them on going across state lines or something, just anything to be annoying, and focus on it. A lot of things are hyper focused on, like, and it shoots them in the foot. Because while they're hyper focused on some black guy selling cigarettes on the corner, there's a peeping Tom looking in the window, waiting to snatch your 12-year-old girl out into the night forever, never to be seen again till you find her body. How many times has that happened? Why isn't the police, cruising the neighborhood to see who's looking in your window? Because they sure enough do it. They do it enough to have hundreds of crime shows, not just one or two popular ones like Forensic Files. They have hundreds. If you really look, they have hundreds of documentaries. And it's really a lot of crime that could be prevented. Just like Polly Class. Why wasn't a cop patrolling that neighborhood while that guy was peeping in the window for hours trying to see what those little girls were doing in the bedroom?
Wow.
No, and this is typical. Peeping Toms escalate to snatching people out or getting in the window and attacking people. Those are crimes that could be prevented. No, the police would prefer to follow black men around selling cigarettes and harassing them and talking about whatever, pulling people over for BS tickets. That's where they want to put their time. And their children get killed as a result of it.
Well, white people, their behavior, they know it's wrong. They like the way that they are always criminalizing black people, and just like the cigarettes thing you brought up and how they're the peeping toms. Something is biologically criminal in their DNA. They, I would even change the DSM to say that something is wrong with them, but I wouldn't call it a mental illness. I would mark it as some type of anti-social or sociopathic behavior, because some of the excuses that they use to make us seem so bad, they would not use for people of their kind in the same situations. It's only for us or people who they don't like, or maybe the fat person or the ugly person who they don't like. They know very well what they are doing, and it's all purposeful.
Yeah, Dr. Welsing identified it, and according to medicine, I'm not a medical doctor, but I'm just reading what she said. Dr. Welsing says, quote, Melview's linkage of evil and the dread with the condition of albinism parallels my own thesis that the absence of the neuropeptide melanin, the absence of this black pigment in the skin, and other aspects of the nervous system critically impairs the depth sensitivity of the nervous system and the ability to tune into the total spectrum of energy frequencies in the universe. She says, quote, this deficiency of sensory awareness sets the stage for absence of harmony, the chaos and destruction, which is evil. Thus, the injustice and evil of white supremacy not only has its foundation in the numerical minority status of the global white population and its genetic recessive status in terms of melanin pigment production, but the very absence of melanin in the nervous system in significant degrees, decreasing sensory input and sensitivity, in addition, contributing factor in the problem of white supremacist injustice. She says white supremacy is the greatest known evil on earth. So basically, what Dr. Welsing just said very scientifically is certain groups of people are missing um, receptors in their skin and in their nervous system that lets us tap into know what's right and wrong in the universe. So it backs up. Dr. Welsing backs up what Nikki said. Dr. Welsing basically said these groups of people don't even perceive their doings as wrong, which makes it very dangerous to have somebody around you.
The thing is, then why do they do these things to us but not always do it to their people? So it's like they would have to be evil, genetically evil.
Well, they did do it to each other, but now,
They do it. That's why we have all those hundreds of crime shows, because they're poisoning, killing their own children, getting into nursing and bumping everybody off. They have a term for it, angel of death.
wow.
I mean, they just go on and on and on. There's no part of crime that they don't dominate.
Right. And Nikki, you brought up a good point. Maybe they're not doing it. I don't know. I think there's a possibility that the press is not covering when they do it. But let's just say they're not doing it to each other as much. If that is true, then the answer is they found a substitute to act aggression upon, which is us. And Dr. Howard Zinn backs that up when he said racial hostility became an easy substitute for class frustration. So instead of fixing your problems, you focus on another group. It's just like in high school when you have a bully and he gets with another dude to pick on somebody. They really want to fight each other, but they're not going to fight each other because they're picking on somebody who they perceive as safe. Well, Black Americans, they perceived our attitudes of kindness as weakness for a long time, and thus we become a safe target for racial aggression and racial hostility. But things are starting to change, and it's interesting now that we're standing up for ourselves and saying, "Hey, we're we're naming ourselves and saying, hey, this is who I am. It's interesting how the system, in my view, is starting to kind of crumble a little bit, because it's almost as if they need us to be in the peasant part of this paradigm to keep the system functioning the way they want it to function. It's a very interesting and exciting time to be alive. So, what is the Menehune mystery? Wani, I thought the Menehune weren't those like dwarves?
Now, I just found it interesting that the Hawaiian people were speaking about these Menehune. I don't even know if I'm saying it right, but it was an interesting topic because they said that these Menehune people were here before us. When we got here, they were already here and they were magical. They were running around doing things and they were small stature. Okay. So who was in Hawaii before Polynesians? Proto-Austronesians,
Right.
Negritos, small statured people. Now, are these people doing magical things over there? I don't know. But I just think it's strange. So you have multiple you know, short people over there before you, or are you just talking about the one short group of people that we know were over there? Hey John, what's up?
Hey, no, I just wanted to say, because y'all was pronouncing a word wrong. They called mini hunes, mini hunes.
Menehune, thank you.
Menehune, thank you. Well, Wani, that's very interesting. I just finished, as you know, finished some scholarship on that, and as it turns out, these I'm wondering, is there a relationship between the Proto-Austronesian and the Twa, the little people in Africa, the Batwa? People,
No,
they're
not really.
no, not really. Okay, well, never mind. That shuts down the thesis.
Kind of. Well, let's just let's put that on the back burner because it's a distant relationship, you know. Let's keep it on the back burner before we jump the gun.
Well,
Go ahead.
well, the reason why I was bringing it up is the Batwa. Bobby Hemmett, the Batwa are like the oldest people on planet Earth, I think, or the Khoisan. Wani would know which one, but um, Bobby Hemmett spent some time with Batwa, and the Batwa are pejoratively known as the pygmies. Y'all know pygmies, right? Well, they walk around with loincloths. They don't care for technology, and they live in the Congo and they live in the deep jungle, and they don't require they live great. You know, they eat fruit, they don't eat meat, they don't really attack animals. Well, Bobby Hemmett spent a little time with them, and Bobby Hemmett said some wild shit, y'all. Bobby Hemmett said they knew how to morph into animals. They knew how to just basically do some type of alchemy that was equatable to magic. And Bobby was like, he asked one of them, he's like, man, that's fucking amazing. You can morph into a tiger. Why don't you tell anybody that you can do this? And he said, one of the leaders of the Batois said, oh, because nobody asked. Yeah. So you have these people with all these. It's the arrogance of white supremacy, is what it is. These English people with their funny hats go over there and say, "Here goes the pygmy, and he's a primitive person," and talking about them like they're animals. In my first book, I identified that a quote unquote pygmy, they're Batois, but I'm just for the sake of racist Western academic canon, I'm gonna call them pygmies. There was a pygmy on display in the fucking New York Zoo in 19, and when was it, 19 something, like
Shamefully, probably 1940 or
a
something.
whole human in the gorilla cages. But they know how to do stuff. It's what I'm trying to say is Western academic canon supposes that it knows everything when it doesn't know a goddamn thing. I figured out how little Western academic canon, either A, how little Western academic canon knows about stuff, or more than likely B, how much Western academic canon doesn't want to tell what it knows. When I spent a summer in West Africa in the jungle, I saw all kinds of shit. I got a picture. I picked a flower it was a flower big as my hand in the jungle, and I picked that shit to give it to somebody. And when I picked it off the tree, it lit up like a fucking LED light. I've been to school a long time and I've never read of a bioluminescent flower. Have y'all ever heard of it? I got a picture of that shit lighting up in my hand.
Yes, it's very rare that it's usually on the ocean, and there's some bioluminescent mushrooms, but it's rare. It is rare for you to have found something like that.
It didn't light up while I was on the tree. When I picked it, it lit up. It was almost like an alert or some shit.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, buddy. I got a pic. I think I sent you that picture, Wani.
You did, and it's very, very rare. We weren't even able to find it. I tried to look for it on multiple ways of looking, and I wasn't able to find it.
You know what I think, y'all? And I'm gonna put on my tinfoil kufi, but I've been around a lot and I've done a lot of research, both in books and in person. What I think, this is what I think. I think that European academic canon is casting a spell on us. I think this shit is attached to some type of witchcraft. Follow me with this spell, like a spell. Like I, I, I was in grad school and I was in a big old library at this school, this university. And I was looking at the psychology, looking for some psychology book. I couldn't find it. And I got frustrated. And it just dawned on me that psychology was right next to religion. I was like, that's interesting. Why would they be next to each other? And I looked at below the quote unquote good religions, and below them were like Satanism and witchcraft and all the stuff, the woo woo stuff. And I just said, fuck it. So I picked up a book of like the occult or whatever. I started flipping through it, and I was led right to the word spell, like casting a spell. And I have the definition in the old cell phone. I don't know where it went, but the definition of spell was something like spelling. It was the same shit as like using words. It wasn't deep. And it dawned on me. I was like, man, you know what? Western narrative, Western academic canon is giving us a perception of reality that's not necessarily the truth. It's their version of reality. We're stuck in a narrative that they can control, if that makes any sense. But if we open up our mind and lived in a different narrative of reality, I bet you more possibilities would open up. In other words, a European has created this mental prison that we all live in because we think it's reality when it's really not. It's their reality based upon control. It's just a thought. John Horst, what's on your mind?
Oh yeah, I just wanted to know. You guys like wanted to like know like the history like behind the Menehunes and stuff like that because I'm in Hawaii. So.
Oh,
If
educate
you
us,
want
yes.
to tell us, yeah.
Oh no. So yeah, basically yeah, the Menehunes they're like the Hawaiian version of the leprechauns. Um, they like little short fat people, like little short fat little like the Hawaiian guys basically, and they have like superpowers and things like that. Basically, you know what I'm saying? Basic, and they live in the mountains.
So that doesn't sound like Negritos, but living in the mountains does, but the Negritos are not fat.
Yeah. So like, cause like the pictures that they always like from what I saw, like they had a logo over here, like they had like there's a water company called Menehune Water, and like basically how they portray this like a little short, little short fat, known looking, little Hawaiian deity. So, it's basically, just like their version of like, a leprechaun, but they have, it's just it's slightly different, because of course, just the way how they go about things is just different. And they do have like, what's the other thing? They have this other well, it's like a what do they call it? The night marchers, basically like the ancestors, basically they're fallen warriors and stuff like that, and basically on certain times of the night they basically march the souls of their loved ones, like who are like transitioning into the afterlife, and they basically mark the dead warriors, like the Hawaiian spirits. They walk their ancestors into like the spirit realm and stuff like that. And there's like urban legends and stuff where if you come across them or whatever like that, you have to basically strip naked and lay on the ground and there's a lot of urban legends and stuff like that.
Okay, this is getting freaky.
Yeah, this a lot. Like
What
there's
else is
been
going on? I
they've
got
been
to get
there's
naked and help people to die, or
yeah, like there's
what am I
instances.
missing?
Nah, there's instances where like people like they've came across like the like situations where they'll be asleep and they're like over by like a Hawaiian burial ground and like they'll feel people like choking them. And then like they'll have to call like a Hawaiian priest in, and the Hawaiian priest is like, "Did you hear drums or anything like that?" And people's like, "Yeah, we hear like it's like footsteps, like marching or something." And he was like, "Oh yeah, that's the night marches. You're like in their path. Like your house is in the path that they're walking through to take their ancestors to the afterlife." And that's the
Why don't
reason.
they know why is that such a prominent thing in the different cultures? That's prominent in Australia as well, where they have to do something to usher you into the afterlife. Egypt as well, a lot of them. I wonder why. I mean, when
Yeah,
I'm dead, I'm going to know which way to go.
Well, check
yeah,
this out. What if I may interject, what if that's why we're in the situation we're in? Maybe we're supposed to reconnect with our fallen ancestors on American soil so they can lead us to the promised land or lead us to, maybe that's part of what we should be doing. Because if you think about it, we are again, back in this European narrative, we are in a form of ancestor worship, but we're worshiping white ancestors. When you go buy Coca-Cola at the gas station, you're pulling out a white ancestor and handing it to them. You're worshiping them. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Maybe
And
that's one of our problems.
yeah, and like, there's y'all ever do come to Hawaii, like there's, specific areas I know over in Kauai. Um, there's like if you go to the Nepali coast, there's literally like an area. It's beautiful. It's basically like this valley that the only way you can get to it, you got to get to it by boat or you got to hike. And if you hike, try to hike it, like a lot of people have died on a hike. But it's like beautiful, and they basically it's like a Hawaiian burial ground. They basically buried their ancestors into the mountains so that way the people couldn't like take their bones and stuff like that. So it's a lot to it, you know what I'm saying? But the whole night marchers thing, yeah, that's a it's a real heavy thing, it's like tons of urban legends. Like you can't take like pork over the mountains where they had the war to unify the islands, because like if you do, like your car break down and like go off the fucking bridge. It's like it's a lot of stuff, and that stuff has happened before. So
Yep, some of those curses they were talking about actually happened. So I don't like to play around in their stuff.
oh yeah, like you can't take lava rocks or like certain things from the big island. You can't. If you do, if you take stuff, you get like bad luck. It's like tons of shit. Like literally, people like have had to like they've taken like lava rocks and stuff like that back home. Of course, them folks, they don't like to listen. They want to be so free, and then next thing you know, the cars start breaking down, family members start dying, and it's like, okay, here you can have your lava rock back.
Yep, I saw the lava rock, and yeah, it was very interesting and fascinating, but I don't have to touch it and take it. Those other people do.
Yeah, so it's
But
always
they forgot to leave a trinket though. That's the thing with them. They don't know how to
Oh,
take things. You take soil, you leave water. You take a branch, you leave a seed. They don't know how the ancestors work. It's a give and take when you're dealing with them.
yeah. And there's and of course you do have it's unfortunate. You do have a lot of the locals who they don't, subscribe to their ancestral practices and stuff, and they're just so Christianized and shit like that. So that's annoying as fuck. Like I hate running into them because it's just like, your history was here before the Christians and shit, and the Christians basically finesse y'all out of y'all kingdom. So it's like, why are you, you know, fucking with what they put on you, you know what I'm saying? So it's like that's like a part of it that I don't like, you know what I'm saying? It's like when they was like, oh, I don't believe in the night marchers, and no, that's this devil worship and shit. It's like, bro, like you just gotta chill. But yeah, I'll lay in there for now.
Oh yeah, and back to ancestor worship, the likeness. If you read, I'm not a biblical scholar, but if you read the King James version of the Bible, it describes Jesus the Christ as Hair, skin of burnt bronze, and hair of wool. What does that sound like? That sound like a brother to me. So when you put white likenesses of the Christ out and you're worshiping the wrong ancestor. So I wonder, I've often wondered that. I wonder if a big part of our problem is we're worshiping ancestors that wanted us fucking dead, wanted us hanging from trees, and we keep them in our pocket, folded up nice and neat, and we do all kinds of stuff for their attention. Those dead presidents, those wrong ancestors. Go ahead, Capone.
And yeah, and we do because I believe, from my notion, the white Jesus was the one who brought the boats over here to, subjugate us into this terrible curse we still trying to fight to this day. Now, as far as dealing with, the white folks, look at what just happened with the election. You had three people just a few years ago ready to kill each other: Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, and Elon Musk. And then when Trump won, they was only mad at Elon because he gets the knife to cut the cake. That's the only reason they mad at each other. So these white folks been fighting each other. They perfected violence on each other before they, brought it to us. So we are dealing with a people, who we cannot reason with. And in the earlier space, they asked, this Democratic shield lady, what has a Democrat done for us? I said the Democrat did the most important thing for the black community. Now hear me out. What they just did this last election was unify us to a point we haven't been in a long, long time, and I thank them for that. We have not been this unified in quite some time, and I love the way it's going because I hope the Democrats lose election for the next 100 years. I hope the Democrat let it fall off all the ballots, and I hope that party burns in hell for the detriment they did to the culture. But I land on that: love, peace, reparations, delineations, and deportations. And then, Professor, I appreciate you in that book. Sister Wani, love you. Sister Nikki, I see you. All the greats. My brother Macau, love y'all. Arthur, I see y'all. Oh, no taxation. Hey, happy belated birthday. I didn't get to tell you the other day, but yeah, I see you.
Oh yeah, and if anybody want a copy of the book, I have copies remaining. Go to Our Story Publications at Cash App $ Our Story Publications. I'll put in the Jumbotron shortly. In addition, if you, I'm gonna put Wani Spots and Nikki the Gods Cash App in the Jumbotron. Show them love. It will be up shortly. But it's ancestor worship. You mentioned something very interesting. In my book, I identified that the ship, one of the main ships that brought slaves over, and I know all of us weren't enslaved. A lot of us were Aboriginal. I know this because I'm halfway in between it. My mom's people were from Alabama, and they've been there for 10,000 years. But my dad, his mom is indigenous to Virginia, but his dad, we've traced his dad, my grandfather, paternal grandfather, to a slave plantation in North Carolina. So he was brought over on that boat from West Africa. So we're a mix thereof. But we got to be careful with this ancestor worship. We're worshiping the wrong ancestors. Everything I'm starting to realize as I get older is really spiritual. And we're in a situation, maybe we don't have the help we need from our ancestors because uh, we're not giving them the respect that they deserve. We wouldn't be in the position we're in right now but for our ancestors paving the way. None of this stuff was given to us. Dr. King and Malcolm X lost their lives for us to be where we are. And believe it or not, if you look at it, the baby boomer generation, I'm not putting all baby boomers in under the bus, but I'm condemning a large portion of baby boomers because the moment they got a perceived level of freedom, from my view, they turned their back on their ancestors and tried to assimilate with a system that wanted them dead. And guess who's paying for it? We are millennials and Gen Xers, particularly millennials. Why? And Gen Z. Why are we paying for it? Because the baby boomers got their 30 pieces of silver and then turn around and got some nasty attitude with us. But back to the topic. Are Europeans racist to other ethnics? Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, never forget that Europeans were at war with themselves, which is why they needed the slave trade. They had no problem with us, actually. They had no problem with blacks and Africans. The problem came when African tribal chiefs, dumbass, gave them slaves. Like my grandmama said, my grandma used to always say, never give somebody a stick to crack you in the head with. Well, them African chiefs gave the European a stick to crack them in the head with. And just like a junkie on heroin, they got addicted to that slave money because it was buying good weapons that they could kill each other with until they came over to the new land they call the new world pejoratively, because how the fuck is new when people were already here, but I digress, and saw a whole nother group that they could say, hold on, let's make a truce. We're not fighting each other anymore. We're fighting these blacks, these foundational blacks. We're fighting them, and they unified under that auspices. The last thing I'm gonna say about that to the topic are Europeans racist to other ethnics. I'm gonna say my first year in college in Cambridge, Massachusetts, I had a bunch of I was in a diversity dorm room full of Europeans. I made a really good friend from Amsterdam, from Holland. I'm still good friends with them. My roommate was from Germany, Cologne, Germany. And my long story short, my dorm room would be popping because I had a computer. I had a computer back then. A lot of people didn't have a computer. They'd come get on the internet in my room. But uh, a bunch of people, bunch of Germans, bunch of Swedes, Italians, my friend from Amsterdam, myself, and a French dude and an English dude. We would all be in the room, bring girls over from Sweden and stuff. And me being a country black dude from Alabama, I just saw a bunch of white folk. And even in the early 2000s, do you know they didn't know what white meant? It blew my mind. I was like, y'all white, right? No, man, I am not white. I'm German. I'm not white. I'm Italian. I'm French. I'm English. I'm not white. I'm English. Like they didn't know what white meant. And I realized right then and there that white was a social construct created in a new world in diametric opposition against foundational black Americans. It's a social construct.
Correct.
That's all it is.
And that's why people would say negative things about Nigerians and not expect me to get mad because they're like, what? You're not their ethnicity. What's wrong with you? And they will say very rude things about each other, like English people and Greek people. And I'm looking at them like, really? But yeah, I had to learn that they value ethnicity outside, and all of this black white stuff is basically confined to here. But since we're very influential globally, people do know about it now.
Yeah, no cap. Lock and load. What do you think about this?
Hey, thanks for taking my call. Yeah, I've been all over Europe, and they have their cultural differences, but if it had to come down to it, they know how to put that to the side and come together. And they got to turn when in Rome, do as the Romans do. They get on cold white supremacy real quick when they get over here. You know what I'm saying? And a few other places, but they got an understanding that, hey, we may have family beef, but this is family. And when it comes down to it, you know, they know how to transform or do like Voltron and connect into team white supremacy. You know, I do want to point out something that I tell people, you know, because it seems like us black folks, we have and it's because of the way we was brought up, a little more difficult time breaking apart and distinguishing and getting on code for our own personal cultural group. So, you know, I always bring up this point. You know, you got Jewish people, and when I say Jewish, I know mainly Jewish is not a race, but you do have white Jews, and
It is a
they have,
race, so
they have been
they have a DNA haplogroup. So they are a group, they're an ethnicity.
right, absolutely. And here's my point. So you got the Yiddish, which they pretty much were able to corner the market on being labeled Jew, right? And so they, however, and I'm talking about the European a Jew, they are able to, if an Irish person come to them and call them whatever, bagel, bagel slangers, right? They, regardless of the skin color and all that, and even old Jews, they interchangeably use white when it's beneficial, whatever. They would label him as anti-Semitic. Black folks, Black Americans, a lot of us, not all, but many, seem to get stuck on that. Where, hey, nigga, I don't care if you're Jamaican, Nigerian, or any person was considered diaspora, there's certain terms that you can't use. That Negro and nigga and stuff like that, that's only for one group to use. And even when Black folks use it, it's usually with somebody who they know in a close knit type group. Even I or others growing up never called another Black person. We don't know that. And so, but the fact is that, there's certain things that it's off limits to them. No, it's not. You don't get a pass because you're minority. You don't get a pass because you're Black or say that you're Black or you got melanin in your skin. This is for our ethnic group. And that's just one thing, but we need to do that with business and everything we do, that, hey, there is things that we do as a group. And then, there's something greater. Okay. But we need to focus primarily on us and codifying that and solidifying our group, because a Jamaican and a Nigerian cannot make a Black American, original Black American, or FBA. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm glad that you brothers and sisters, and that we're coming together, and we are checking everybody, which is much needed. It has to be. So salute to everybody, and I yield the floor.
Oh yeah, it's interesting. They do know how to Voltron up against us. Kush, what's on your mind? And then we'll go to Johnny U.
Wait, I don't see Kush.
I'm here. Hey, morning. Hey, panel.
I do. Queen Kush, I'm sorry.
I thought it was MF Kush. Okay, we're sorry. Go ahead, hon.
Kushite Queen, how y'all doing?
Oh.
Hi.
So one of the things that I was going to say about the Europeans being racist to other ethnics, I'm assuming other European ethnic groups or whatever. I had come across a video on YouTube sometimes when I'm just sitting at work and just having background noise or whatever. I try to find something Dr. John Henrik Clarke, Tariq is always in rotation, PBT, CBA, whatever. But one of my favorite channels, another one I listened to, I came across a video that was talking about the Belgian conference, and something that I did not know, and I haven't gotten a chance to finish watching the video because I was getting ready to leave for work for the day. But the video was talking about the purpose of the Belgian conference and how these European countries warring against each other constantly. And we talk about how these Europeans are in a place of scarcity. They operate from a place of not having anything. And so they're always constantly fighting and warring with each other because they don't have anything. But the part of the purpose for the Belgian conference was for them to carve up Africa and all of the resources in Africa. And that would in some way provide some stability and some peace, because if all these European countries now had something somewhere that they could go to have resources and not be scarce, then we don't have to fight each other. We'll just go fight these people over here and take their stuff, or colonize or whatever the case may be. And even if we get prior to the Belgian conference, if we just, and I'm just going based off of Hollywood movies, I think it's not all factual, but I think some of it in the arrogance of these people, they still hold on to their history and their culture. It's always interesting when I watch certain movies like Gladiator and things like that, Troy, anything with Rome. These people have always put, see my air quotes, the Africans or Black people in this blanket box. So they've always been the Africana or the Ethiopian. Like, they've never looked at Africans in a respectful way. So it's always been a us versus them, and I can't really say it's and some of it I think is just that they're ignorant, because I do remember, and I might be all over the place with this because it's just different things coming to my mind as I'm listening to this. I do remember hearing at a point that when the Europeans first came to Africa, they were unable to pronounce the word Kush. And so that's how we got to the word Ethiop or Ethiopian, where Kush meant kissed by the sun. Ethiopian means burnt by the sun.
Wow.
I don't know how accurate that is, but that is something that I heard and that always stuck with me, that the Europeans were unable to say Kush, kissed by the sun, but you could say Ethiop or Ethiopian, burnt by the sun. And I was like,
Wow.
that's interesting. So I'll do some more research to kind of see if that's actually true. But it's just always been interesting to me how throughout history, these people, and something else, last thing, that I came across another video that was saying like the Europeans, or the pale face, I won't say the Europeans, but those with pale complexion, they've always been the minority, and they just came on the scene within the past couple thousand years. Everybody was dark skinned prior to that, even in Europe. They were this anomaly, but people were not so afraid of these pale faces, these people with different color eyes, that they went off killing them. It's something with them that when they see something different, they go off, they kill and destroy. And I think that's really weird, which I think goes back to Professor's point, or was it Wani, about there's something not there with them. For them for that connection, because there's no way that everybody else would see them as different, and nobody killed them off, because the pale face and the blue eyes, that mutation is fairly new. That's not something that's always been here. So I just think about it and I look at it. One of my favorite things that I came up myself is that it's okay to kind of say that the Moors got it wrong. When they went up into Europe during the Black Plague, it's okay to say they got it wrong. They should have minded their Black business and bust a U-turn and let nature do its thing. But with that, I'll land.
Thank
Oh
you.
yeah, good point. We're gonna go to IGZ clothing. What's going on,
IGC,
IG?
come off your mind. Your mic.
Oh, I did not mean. I was just listening, man. I'm just celebrating my birthday, eating ice cream. I think I made a mistake, hit the button. I was trying to get ice cream. My bad.
Oh,
All
it's
right. Well,
all good.
if you feel like you want to come back up, just ring the bell.
I got it.
Okay. Happy birthday, bro. Miss Stacy, what's on your mind?
Okay, I'm in my car again. I'm on my way home. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you
we
just
can hear
fine.
you, huh?
Oh, good. So this thing is working like it's got some sense. I didn't have a whole lot. But one of the things, when you were talking about money and worshiping the wrong, as you were saying, like the exchange of hands and worshiping the wrong ancestors because they're all on it. And then I thought about it and I was like, you know what? Wow, that's kind of, that kind of is interesting. And I thought about, that whole putting Harriet Tubman on the $20 never, it never came to fruition. It never was completed.
It sure didn't.
Yeah, and
They put her on a quarter though. I had the quarter.
really, I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, they got her on a quarter. I'm looking for. I don't know where the hell I put that thing, but I collect like rare quarters, and I had seen one with her on the back of it.
Well, what I was gonna say,
but yeah, it ain't the $20 bill, so yeah, we gonna need to up them numbers.
Right, but what I was thinking, I'm like, yeah, we need some more. We need some more of our people, on some money too. But here's the thing. Where did, and I should have looked it up, but I was at work, and I'm listening to this, that the $2 bill, and I've never heard anybody else talk about it. Only Black folks talk about the $2 bill being a good luck, and always keep a $2 bill. Then you'll never be broke. Always have a $2 bill tucked somewhere. I knew someone that used to buy them. It's like, yeah, you can buy them. You can buy them at the post office, and he would give them away. Not all of them, but sometimes he would give them a couple of them away to friends, gifts or whatever, or around the holidays or whatever. But I know there's people firmly are stuck on that, like always keep a $2 bill. And so that it was weird for you to say that, because I thought, wow, I wonder if that kind of plays a part in there too. Because some people still do. I even got a $2 bill stashed somewhere. I don't know if I have one of them or I don't know if I have one or two. I can't find it. I don't know which wallet I have it in, but I did too. And so I'm thinking, dang, I wonder if I need to get rid. Do I need to get rid of this $2 bill? I gotta research where that comes from. Because somebody gave me one, and I was like, okay, well, I'll make sure I keep it so I won't be broke. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, don't get rid of it.
Well, that's very fascinating, Stacy, because a $2 bill has Alexander Hamilton on it, and Alexander Hamilton was mixed, but his mother was black, well, African origin. So that's very fascinating, and it's very fascinating. Y'all brought up that the whole Harriet Tubman 20 never came into fruition. That's true, and it's very very fascinating. We're dealing with something spiritual. I was watching a movie with the old lady earlier today, and what's the name of the movie? It was a movie about the name of that damn movie. It was we ended up watching Smile too, but we watched another movie before it. I forget the name of the movie, but it was really good. It was about some kids who found some type of, it was a hand, and it was witchcraft or something, and they would get connected to satanic, like,
Talk to me.
what was the name of it?
Talk to me.
Talk to Me. Right. And just
Is
basically,
that new?
It came
I
out in
don't.
2023. Me and my girl went to go see it. It's a good ass movie.
Interesting.
That shit
Talk
was
to
wild.
me.
I just watched it a minute ago.
Talk
Oh
to me.
man,
I
that
gotta
shit
look
is
that up.
sick.
That shit was fucking wild, my friend.
Hey, but what if hey, Professor, what if that is really true? Like if we really found that one of our ancestors' hands and we was able to go back and then get all the answers we need to fix things, that shit would be dope.
Yeah. But what the interesting thing that came up is, I have a lot
But
of
then again, we
information.
could run into the motherfuckers that sold us too. So, it's a 50-50 with taking that
Right.
hand.
It's a rolling the dice. But what's fascinating is, I was watching that, and I had a memory of being in West Africa a couple years ago. And one of the most interesting things you can do on the continent is watch the news, because the news, there's a whole lot of shit that just don't come to America on the news. Well, anyway, a lot of the news in West Africa when I was there was of people getting in trouble for voodoo. It was a whole or witchcraft or whatever you want to call it. Like that shit was for real over there. They were like, matter of fact, when I was flying back, they were looking through all my books to see. I was like, what are they looking through all my books for? It's almost like they were looking to see if I had any spells or some shit written in there. Well, anyway,
Got any voodoo books in there?
that's what it seemed like. I
Taking
thought that
got
you know,
shake you down for your voodoo stuff.
that's what I was about to say. I'm like, is he looking for drugs in my book? He
You, you
picked my
you was
book.
coming over there to get some monkey hands to bring back for voodoo spells.
Yeah. Well. Anyway, I was talking to my lady about it. I was like, man, I was like, I was like, this shit's real. I was like, I was in West Africa and saw all kinds of shit over there that I'm not even going to talk about on. But anyway, and I was like, I said, I wonder why they don't show this stuff on American news. And she was like, because they're probably using that stuff to control us. And I was like, oh shit. I was like, that's some real shit, man. Because I saw some stuff that looked like mind control over there. You know what I'm saying? So Europeans did learn a lot on the continent, and they could be using some of that evil shit to control us in the States, and we're just not even aware of it. But I digress. Back to the topic at hand. I want the space to never forget that Europeans went on a campaign to kill each other. And the reason why they stopped killing each other is because they found us. And in conclusion, Dr. Howard Zinn says on page 227 in A People's History of the United States, he says he's referring to the Irish, but this mantra applies to everybody else. He said, how could these new Irish immigrants, themselves poor and despised, become sympathetic with the black slave who is becoming more and more the center of attention, the subject of agitation in the country? He says the need racist hostility became an institute. Racial hostility became an easy substitute for class frustration. So let's apply that to Europe. Europe was frustrated with killing each other. The French was tired of killing the English. They were broke. They probably weren't tired of killing each other. They probably just ran out of money, and they discovered these Negroes to get money from selling, and then they discovered this new land, quote unquote, that already had people on it. So how it'd be new? I digress. It got over there and said, you know what? We're gonna stop killing each other, and we're gonna kill them. And that's been our problem for the last 300 years. The Black, what's on your mind?
What's going on, Professor Nick Iwani,
No
and
much, bro.
in the room? It's it's funny you say that because I've been reading this book about it's called The Red, Brown, and Black Men of America in Australia, and their white let me get the rest of it in the white supplanters. And look, in this book, it explains kind of like that part of how these different groups of Europeans that hate each other in Europe come over here, and how like the main quest of America, or the American experiment, is to find a way to have these different European tribes to live in a cohesive manner and finance their European countries. But it didn't work out that way, and it made the Europeans that they end up sending over here find a American identity. So that's what they all kind of like agreed on, that they hated. They all agreed on that they a new type of person, which is an American, and they all hate their former colonies or former homelands. And that's what kind of like kept America distinct and separate from the rest of these countries. And uh, it talks about their hatred for the Chinese and how they envy the fact that the Chinese can make cheap goods and can control like they debt ratio whenever they want to, without the people or the peasants complaining about it. It's a very interesting book, like it kind of like explained everything y'all just finished talking about, and I just found that very interesting.
Yeah, I'm talking through a mute again, but yeah, it's all about us. I was looking for a the hierarchy. I'm gonna find it shortly. I put it up a bunch of times, but the whole pyramid of the king, queen, nobles, knights, peasants, and serfs. I mean, serfs and peasants. That paradigm has to be in place to have a noble class. And the way I explain it to my students is very simple. If everybody was in the noble class, you wouldn't have anybody working. And I'm not downing Burger King. I worked at Burger King, my dad worked at McDonald's. I'm not downing that. You do what you got to do, and that's honorable. It's an honest day's work. But nobody would do those types of jobs if everybody was a noble. Um, Elite systems operate off of exploitation, and you need an exploitive group to do the work that people don't want to do generally. And unfortunately, in America, to quote the late great Paul Mooney, America feeds, according to Paul, America feeds on race like a monster. And race has been used to fill positions that, are lower on the caste system. And we've been racialized out of, we've been identified as a group to be lower in the caste. But our strength and our resilience has kept us at the damn top. You know what I'm saying? But, at or near the top. But the system has identified as such. But given the fact that we have defined ourselves, that's disrupting the system. Isn't that crazy? I heard somebody come into Tariq Space a month ago, like it was a Puerto Rican guy or something, and he kept asking a very important question. He kept saying, "When you get your reparations, what's that gonna mean for me?" And I was like, wow, he's really saying that. He's like really acknowledging. And this guy didn't really sound so educated, but he knew that. You know, he could barely speak English, but he knew that once we get reparations and we'll be financially stable and financially sufficient or have a break to get ourselves together. What does that mean for him? What he said is he knows about that hierarchy. He knows somehow he knows that as long as we stay at the bottom, he has an opportunity to be, as long as we stay perceived as peasants, he has an opportunity to be a serf. Last thing I say is you couldn't keep the serfs and peasants in place without the knights. Remember that. Who are the knights in America? The knights are the police. The police used to be the slave patrols. I write about that in my book ad nauseum. And you'll see a lot of foreigners, a lot of immigrants go into that knights or police class. Who formed the police group in America? The Irish, right? And for the last couple of weeks, I've been hearing a lot of the callers say that Nigerians have formed in the police class in the prisons, and I don't want to hear that. That's terrible for me to hear because I think of the structural hierarchy and the deals that are made in America to keep foundational Black Americans in our perceived place. Lion Legal, a couple questions.
But you know
Oh,
what's going to happen?
go ahead, Wani.
They won't get the
Are you going to
protection.
ask me where I'm from? Is that the stupid question that
Yeah,
you're about
No,
to ask?
I
yeah,
was going to
it's not
ask. I was
stupid.
going to ask you were you an attorney, but given the fact you can,
How is it
given the
stupid to
fact you
find out where
can't speak,
somebody?
given the fact you
Yes,
can't speak,
yes, I'm an attorney. Yes, I'm an
well, I'm
attorney.
shutting your ass up until I'm ready to talk to you.
Yeah,
What were you
shut the
saying,
fuck
Wani?
up. Yeah.
No, let's talk to him. I'm ready.
Ah, they need to go home.
Hello, hello.
Yeah, I'm
Away
here.
we
I'm here.
go.
All right, come on. Let me hear your roar, Lion. What you got to say?
No. Go ahead. Ask me the question. I beg your pardon. Go ahead.
Where are you
Where are you
Hate
from,
it
from?
when
sir?
Nicky and Wanda start cussing. Like
Okay,
that's how you know
so
they
I
not
was about to
listening to
answer
shit.
the title of the room. Is racism still alive?
Hold on. What the fuck are you talking about, man? Can you speak English? I'm waiting.
Yeah, where are you from? So we'll know like what your language abilities are.
He's from Nigeria.
Or is he in
What
England?
a
Is he in
disaster.
England? He's a Nigerian. He's an England Nigerian.
I don't know.
Just from your comments, I can tell how successful you are in life.
Either
So I
way,
bid you good
it's a
night. You pathetic.
disaster.
You pathetic rat.
You
You
can't
Yeah,
keep
even
it
say
bye.
on.
Get the
Keep
hell
pathetic.
it
on. We
on.
don't
It's
want you in here
pathetic.
anyway.
You
Keep
can't
it
even say
on.
it right.
Pathetic Rex. What? Did we just get
Hey,
cussed out? I
hey,
missed it.
y'all. I don't know what the fuck that dude was talking about.
He learned 3 English words and came in here and tried to say some shit. I am an attorney.
He saw the word. He saw the word racist and instantly wanted to just come in here and be nosy. That's all, and drop his 2 cents or two whatever they money is, his 2 leaves or whatever he wanna, you know, pieces of dirt. I
Gazelle
don't know.
hoofs. His 2 gazelle hoofs.
Right, right.
I'm glad. I'm glad he came in here because he was a stooge to my point. He's a stooge to my point that melanated people want to fit into that hierarchy. He saw racism and he wanted to come in here and flex the fact that the system is propping him above, has been giving him an idea that he's above us, even though his ass can't even speak English. Up here mumbling
He's at the bottom of the barrel globally. I don't know how he's going to be ahead of anybody in America.
facts.
Why are you niggas hitting the white man?
Exactly.
I don't know. Let's
The
go over
white
that.
man is so good to me. Please don't
They are,
hate him. We
you
are
guys are
one
not
people.
good enough. We need the real deal. These attempts to thrill me with African accents are not working. I'm not triggered.
Not at
We
all.
have to get the real deal. We have to get the real deal.
Yeah, he gave.
But why you hate the white man so much, Sister Wani? I love you.
Came in here on the attack because we're identifying European racism. He's defending Europeans. He's proving our point. He's walking evidence to our point. It's pathetic. Yeah. And then he's coming to find our space. Like we're not looking for him. He coming here at us. They are obsessed with us. Anywho, who is next up? Go ahead, Queen Kush.
So can I say something, and I might be over people's heads, under people's heads, but Professor, when you were talking earlier about Black people getting into anime, and whatever. I like anime and I like TV shows, especially. I don't know if people realize a lot of these adult animations and things have a lot of really good allegory for what we're dealing with today. I don't know, a lot of these TV shows, a lot of these movies, some of us have been realizing that life has been imitating art, or art has been imitating life, but people that are in Hollywood have been writing TV shows, cartoons, movies, things that are eerily very similar to the way we're living life today. And I remember listening, this was probably sometime last year on one of Tariq's shows. It was a guy he had called in and he asked Tariq if Tariq had been watching this anime cartoon on Netflix called Castlevania. And Castlevania is based off of a video game, and it's about
I used to
vampires.
play that a long time ago.
Okay.
A
On Nintendo.
long time ago.
I had that on Nintendo. That was my shit.
Okay.
With
So y'all tracking with the Castlevania piece. So I never play. So I'm not a gamer. So the video game piece I wasn't familiar with, but I saw it on Netflix and I watched the first Castlevania, and I'm watching it and I was saying to somebody, well, just thinking to myself, like, this is very much like how humans are living today. Like, you have the vampires all the way at the top of this pyramid, and then you have the humans at the bottom, and they're trying to find a way to maintain this balance with the humans. Of some of them we need to feed on, so we need them to sustain life. But you know, it's kind of like they also play with their food type of thing. It was a delicate balance, and I thought about that, like kind of like how we watch politics. It's such a delicate balance, and we watching right now with the 47th president and the stuff that he's doing, and how he is shaking up that delicate balance. Where all of these massive cuts, people have no idea how this is going to play out because things are so intricately woven. So if y'all following with me, please follow with me. If not, just bear with me. But the next Castlevania, the Castlevania Nocturne came out, and the guy was asking Tariq that he watch it. And I finally started watching Castlevania Nocturne. This is the second installation. When I say that explains that pyramid that we talk about, like who's all the way at the top, who's all the way at the bottom, who's being used to be fed on. Because one thing that I thought was interesting in Castlevania Nocturne is that not every human that the vampires would feed on would be turned. Some of the humans are simply kept alive so that they can keep feeding on them. Because if you let the blood rebuild itself, like the blood will rebuild itself. And so some humans, they never turned into vampires. They let them stay alive, and they just keep feeding on them, or they'll let them reproduce and they'll feed on the children. And I'm just sitting here and I'm watching Castlevania and I'm like, who wrote this? And so I think that sometimes, whether it's cartoons, TV shows, movies, if you're a person that's into allegory or into illustrations and things like that, it helps me to better understand things. I just kind of like to sit back and watch, because it's really something to watch. Again, like you said, that pyramid, that elite system, and how it's a delicate balance, and somebody all the way at the top is, if that delicate balance gets toppled, as that Puerto Rican said, what do that mean for everybody else?
Same thing it means now. Puerto Ricans are on the bottom and they need to stay out of our business. They don't have anything to do with us.
that's what that African came in here all mad about, is we're delineating and we're organizing, and he knows that he doesn't have a chance once we delineate, because nobody's going to care about his situation. He made a deal, according to Dr. Claude Anderson. I'm paraphrasing Brother Claude, but in Black Labor, White Wealth, Claude identifies that them people come in here to basically siphon off of our success, and work off what we have going, and basically we're freezing him out. No disrespect, we're not trying to freeze people out. We're just trying to focus on ourselves. And he came in here mad because by us focusing on ourselves, we're in his view taking money out of his pocket that money don't have shit to do with him because it's not. This is not his country.
But he said he didn't want us to ask where he was from. So,
That means
and
not.
I
That means
agree with
Nigeria.
right.
Right.
I don't blame you for hiding that. That is something that you want to hide under a rock, a couple of rocks. But I agree with Kush. I really, I love cartoons. I love anime. I love all those, and I do get a lot of information from those. And it goes down different when a cartoon character is saying it. Some of the, some of the shows I prefer. I wish Married with Children was a cartoon because I didn't like looking at the real people being slummy and But if that was a cartoon, I'd be all over it. Like, oh, that was it's I prefer that medium. I really do for that
Sister
type
Wani,
of trashy humor. Go ahead.
have you seen Afro Samurai?
No.
Oh yeah, you got to watch Afro Samurai 1 and then Afro Samurai Resurrection.
What's
Samuel,
that movie you just told me to watch though?
it's called Talk to Me.
Talk to me. I think I
Yeah, it's a
already saw
scary
that. Let me look
movie.
it up real quick.
Yeah,
That's
but
the only kind I like.
yes, Afro Samurai is good. They got Samuel Jackson as the main character. It's the same
I
people who made
started
the
watching it.
Boondocks.
I started watching it. I got to get to it now.
Oh man, it's nice. It's nice. But Castlevania, I never seen that. But another good one is I started watching was Jujutsu Kaisen.
What platform is it on?
Which show?
Hulu, Netflix,
Which show?
Prime,
Uh,
Juju.
Jujutsu Kaisen. You can find it on Netflix. It's on everything. That's
I
everywhere.
think I heard of that one. I think I heard of it, but
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, that's everywhere. And then Samurai Champloo, that's my shit. I still watch that. That's old school. You got to watch that. The Wu Tang Clan made that cartoon with some of the people from Boondocks, Samurai Champloo, and a couple other Japanese folks. That one's a good one. They got our music in there. Our little. It's nice.
Yeah, I put yeah. Well, about anime, I was watching anime in the '90s when it wasn't cool for Black people to watch it. My favorite one is a Ninja Scroll. That is a beautiful anime.
Oh, that's my shit. 1 and 2.
That is that's some beautiful shit right there.
Hey, that's gory as hell though. That's old school anime.
Me and my lady probably gonna watch it tonight if I can find it on the thing. But back to the point is, I wasn't dissing anime. I was arguing Queen Kush that um given the fact our children are openly in the anime, that shows intellectual growth and us being no longer buying into this propaganda that's trying to isolate our minds into thuggery and sexy redisms. I see little girls proudly in the anime, and our little boys are proudly in the anime. Anime is intellectual as fuck. You know what I'm saying? That stuff is not shallow, and I love it. And the system's struggling with it because the system wants to say, "Hey, no, little girl, you're sexy red. You want to be sexy red, don't you? You want to be Nicki Minaj, don't you?" And our little girls are like, "No, I want to be an anime character."
They want to be Sailor Moon or something like that. No, I was tracking
Ghost
exactly
in the
what you were
Shell.
saying. That's why I brought it up.
Right, right. All right. We had Jay come to the stage. Come on, Jay. What's on your mind? Can you hear me, Jay? Jay going once, going twice. All right. Something's going on with Jay's speaker. We're gonna get a couple more speakers, and we're gonna call it a night. With the Menehune mystery, what I was saying earlier about them, Wani, is I was wondering, and it may have been a stretch to try to compare the Menehune to the Twa, but I was saying the Batwa knew secrets and ancient secrets that modern academia didn't even care to learn from them because they looked at them as primitive. I've had this discussion before, panel, about societies that are viewed as primitive and unsophisticated. I've argued that they may be the most sophisticated societies of them all, because seemingly, if you look through history, and those who don't know, I'm a historian. I teach history. One course I teach is history. If you look through history, every quote unquote advanced society did what? Go crumbling to the goddamn ground. But the societies that are still around, the groups of people who are still around from before recorded history, are seemingly primitive. Maybe there's something inherently wrong with having technological items. Um, there's
Why
a
can't they just accept that they're different? You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because they're not stupid. There's no way you could survive nature and be stupid. I would die in 1 week. No,
48
one
hours.
day.
Yeah, me
One
too.
day. If I couldn't get something off of Amazon and call the grocery store to bring something over, I would just perish. I wouldn't know what berries to eat. I wouldn't be chasing squirrels. I'd just give up because I wouldn't even know where to begin. I wouldn't be able to grow a potato in time to save myself. So therefore, those people, they have been doing everything. We can talk about the Twa on another thing. They're very interesting people. I spent a lot of time with them, and I was, miserable and had bug bites and all kind of problems the whole time. But I knew when I was getting all those bug bites and living in a hut and suffering and wanting to go to a hotel, that I would look back on it and be glad I stayed and didn't go to the hotel. Um, they have something magical about them with nature. And I was like a sore thumb in nature, but
Tell
they
me what
just
was
blended right in. I mean, it just seemed like bugs didn't bite them, and
wow.
they were happy when it rained. They were happy when it stopped raining. They were just happy. They were just a happier people. What's the point of being alive? We're always trying to make ourselves happy. Okay. Well,
Wow.
they're already happy. They don't need a cell phone because everybody they want to talk to is standing right in front of them. So they're just living differently. And I swear to you, they're not in this dimension and they're not living in this
Tell
dimension.
us more about that. That's interesting.
It's hard to explain, but one time they had, I think it's one of their sayings, they were saying that God didn't give them height, but he gave them land. And then uh, they were sad because all of these people have come to take the land away. The European followed the the Batois and other groups that don't like their way of life. Their way of life is basically hunter-gatherer. And people hate hunter-gatherers. That is one of the things that makes everybody hate the Negritos. That's why they hate the other ethnic groups in Asia. The Chinese people hated the so-called barbarians in the South, Negritos. They hated the Hmong people. How do you pronounce that? Hmong? I always forget how to pronounce it.
Mong.
Mong.
Whatever.
Hmong.
It's
Mong.
just Mong. It's
Hmong.
Mong.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
There's a
The
Hmong
lot of
people.
H
them in
is kind of
Sacramento.
silent, but it's Mong.
The H is okay. Hmong people.
Yeah.
And Sherpas, all these Tibetans, they hate their guts. And that's only because they were living traditionally, and the others want to own land and want to plant things. And so if you're living traditionally and you're moving around, you might pass through their land and, uh, what they call poaching or fishing in their lake or something. They don't like that. So this is part of the issue that they have with these other people, but the pygmies were happy. I look to see who's happy. Okay, so if I go up to the tundra and I see this little boy chasing reindeer around, herding reindeer, freezing, and I would die, and felt very cold. He wasn't cold. He's adapted to the tundra over thousands of years. His body is acclimated to it. So he's just having fun in the snow, chasing reindeer around. He was happy. He was smiling cheek to cheek, happier than American children with nothing, just chasing reindeer around. And they asked him, "Do you want to go to Russia to go to school?" They give these children that live in these traditional settings these options. Do they want to go, and they have to have these conversations with their family? Do you want to herd reindeer for another 5,000 years, or do you want to go to school and get a job? And so thought to myself, I said, wait a minute, these people know how to build houses, they know how to get food, and they've been very successful doing it. If they go to school, they'll simply go to school, get a job, and then have to work forever to get the stuff that they already know how to get for free. Yes, it's hard, but they're not slaves. And they have a system that works for them. And they thrive. They're happy. They smile. And that's the most important thing you can do on the earth is be happy here. And if they found a little niche to be happy, I think that they should continue to do what they're doing and not be treated like, oh, you're out of the loop. You don't have a cell phone. You're jacked up. What are you doing up here chasing reindeer? Or what are you doing in the Amazon? What are you doing in the jungles of the Congo? You're not doing anything. That's how people treat them, and they're happy. They're in there happy. They know how to live with the environment. They have a relationship with animals. Um, I don't have that relationship. I can't chase reindeer. I don't know all the different plants in the Amazon. They know way more than the average person, and they know how to survive when that's something that most humans that live in the settings that we live in, we don't know how to survive or take care of ourselves in those ways.
Makes
Right,
me think of
right, right.
Avatar.
Yeah, it's the same mantra. Like
Yeah.
it's
I'm sorry, go
who
ahead. I
was
was gonna say, especially when you brought up that
go
flower that
ahead.
lit up when you picked it. The first thing I thought about was that movie Avatar. I mean, my cousin, she
Oh.
said she hated it because she was like, they were calling them blue monkeys, and then those are supposed to be the black people and this and that. But it was weird because it was like, well, at the end of the day, the white folks lost. Well, the what do they call them? The sky people lost
Mm-hmm.
and had to go back, and people were able to get their their planet back or whatever. But it was weird because like the whole tree and then how they were one with nature and how with the ancestors, and it's just all this with you guys talking about this, I can't get it out of my head. I just keep thinking of Avatar, like how they were with nature, and like when Wani's saying how these people are have this relationship with the animals and with nature and everything. And I can't get the Avatar out of my head. I keep thinking that that's what it sounds like to me. Like, so, with the whole art imitating life thing, when you were talking about they know something, like Europeans know stuff. So it's like, okay, who wrote this movie? Who knows something? Are they trying to tell us something? And then with the wavelength that we're on now coming together, and you know how they got all those different tribes. They still had different tribes too, but all of them came together to fight them white folks, the sky people that were trying to take over and get their stuff. So I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong or you think something different, but this is what it put me in the mind of. That's all. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, yeah, and it's very fascinating, Miss Stacy, because when you look back at Robert Kaczynski, who was a Unabomber, he was a computer science professor at Berkeley who went crazy and started mailing bombs at people, which I don't condone. We don't condone violence on this channel, but I'm saying that I'm Ted Kaczynski. I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm gonna call him Robert. Ted Kaczynski went around to his professor friends in the 90s, warning them to stop doing computer research, because computers are going to outdo us. And he wrote a manifesto, and in one page he argues that algorithms on computers are going to get so smart that they're going to basically some Terminator shit. They're going to turn on us in some type of way. So with that in mind, and a little knowledge of ancient history with the Babylonian tower, I wonder if the Batois, and the Khoisan, if they got it right. Maybe the way to play it safe, or the way to be happy on planet Earth, is to be one with nature and not go against nature. Maybe if you don't go against nature, that will trigger happiness in some way, like Wani said.
Let me give
Agreed.
another example.
Well, look at what.
Go ahead, Wani.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go, Wani. I'm so sorry. I just really, I want to throw this in. When he said that one with nature, what do we do when we go on vacation? When I make a real vacation where we want to go and relax, A lot of times it's in nature, right?
Right. And everything we do is anti-nature. But go ahead, Wani.
I was just going to say another example is in the Hunza Valley, that's in Pakistan, and they were credited with having a great diet, but basically they make a homemade bread and they really have a very simple diet. And so anyway, everybody up there looked extremely healthy. They had flat stomachs, they walked about 10 miles a day, gathering different things, different nuts off of trees, making a particular milk, and the women were baking this bread. They were all very happy, very cheerful, getting plenty of fresh air and exercise. But guess what? Their grandchildren didn't want to live that way. So they went to the city and they got jobs as accountants and, I think something in business and stuff. When those men came back to visit their grandparents, they couldn't even walk up the hill. They were fat. They were greasy looking. They were out of shape. They looked like haggard animals compared to their grandfather, who was 80 years old, who walked 10 miles a day about. He said about 10 miles a day. They were trashed. This is what happened when they went to the polluted city. Now, I'm not against people being educated or expanding their horizons, but just look, how long are they going to live like that? The guy couldn't even button his shirt because he was so out of shape versus his grandparents who were very active and in shape and happy, and he was miserable. That's the other thing. He was miserable and exhausted. So I don't think that the Western society or modern societies have the right idea. They've gotten too far away from the source.
Right, right. And that's what it's all about. The neurosurgeon, Dr. Jack Cruz, says that the sun is a source and we should always be in the sun. And like I was telling Miss Stacy earlier, if you look it over, we're dealing, and this is according to Dr. Jack Cruz, MD, there's a great conspiracy to keep us away from the source, which is the sun. Everything is made out of light, ladies and gentlemen, including you. Let me prove it to you. You just ate a hamburger, right? You ate that meat. Where did that cow make his meat? He made his meat by eating grass. Well, where did grass make the grass? The grass made the grass from the sun through light. Dr. Jack Cruz says to stay healthy, our skin was designed to operate in sunlight to get a red spectrum and purple spectrum light to feed us, to heal us inside and out. And everything about American life is inside. When we go to school, we go to school inside of a fucking building, go to the hospital inside of a building. I was in Africa, in West Africa, and I saw a hospital out. A lot of it was outside. It was a maternity ward. These women were having kids outside, which is wild. But they didn't have a high mortality rate. Anyway, everything according to Dr. Jack Cruz, we're inside on purpose. We're inside away from the sun. And Dr. Jack Cruz insinuated that by us being apart from the sun, certain body systems begin to fail. And that's part of the medical industrial complex that nobody talks about. These people are making money giving us pills. It is big fucking money, man. And I don't think Dr. Cruz said it explicitly, but he implied that keeping us sick is big business. You know what I'm saying? It's ridiculous. Even the food we eat is taken away from sunlight. I went to buy a watermelon. Watermelon's a delicacy where I'm from in Alabama. I went to Walmart and got a watermelon, busted open, and wasn't a goddamn seed in there. And I got scared. I was like, how do you have a watermelon without a seed? Really, can anybody explain that to me? How do you grow a watermelon that doesn't have a seed?
Genetically modified.
They
Jesus.
crossbred it with the tomato.
Oh, are you serious?
Yes, that's why the watermelons now don't have seeds in them. They started crossbreeding with tomatoes.
Oh my God, that's like perversion. These people trying to play God. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna take a couple more callers and we're gonna call it a night. Thought I saw Cush's hand. Did you have your hand up, Cush?
I did have my hand up because
Cushite, my queen.
yeah, when you were talking about everything is forcing us to be inside. I was thinking about I saw earlier today somebody had posted a picture of pollen. So we're getting ready to go into spring, and they posted a picture of like the sky being like completely yellow, like the atmosphere was completely yellow, full of pollen. And me and my sister was talking about how they're getting rid of all the female trees and they're replacing all the. So in urban areas, if you don't have trees at all, the trees are now being replaced with male trees. And so what is being created is an imbalance. You need male and female. You need light and dark. You need peace. You need chaos. We're living in a place, and me and my sister talk about this all the time. We're living in a place where there is complete imbalance everywhere you look. And we see that in nature. So, when you say people can't go outside, we are connected to the earth, whether we want to be or whether we don't want to be. We're connected to the earth. We're connected to the universe. We're connected to the water. Like there's a connection everywhere, but we can't even get back to where we need to be, because if they're forcing people out of the country areas with overdevelopment. So here in Maryland, probably all over the United States, is no shortage of land in this part of the country, or just on this part of the landmass. No shortage of land, but it's a whole lot of overdevelopment. Animals being pushed out, humans being pushed out. It's like they're putting everybody into like a pen. They want everybody to be in this centralized location and then be inside. So if it's not being forced, like you said, having to go to school inside, having to go to work inside, even if you want to go outside and just enjoy the weather, now it's too much pollen. Now my allergies are messing with me. It's always something. And so, I just look at how I don't remember people talking about this. I was born like in the early 80s. I don't remember people talking about allergies like that. Even in the 90s, people had allergies. People talk about, I have hay fever. But now it's like everybody has an allergy. Somebody's developing an allergy here. People are developing sicknesses. And it's just like, where is all of this coming from? And as you said,
a lot of things.
I'm sorry, Nikki, go ahead.
A lot of things are genetic. A lot of things are genetically modified. You notice, I don't know how old you are, but I'm sure I'm older. But we didn't used to be allergic to wheat bread. You didn't used to see so many peanut allergies. They're not the same peanuts they used to be. It's not the same wheat grain it used to be. Everything is being made in a way that so that they can produce it faster or so that they can make more money, and it's not necessarily being made in a way that's healthy for the for human consumption, because people weren't getting peanut. Do any of y'all remember people getting that many peanut allergies? Now everybody's allergic to peanuts.
And
Yeah,
everybody
my
has
mom
an
and
Yeah,
everybody has
EpiPen.
peanut
I
allergies.
got a niece and nephew that both have peanut allergies, which is ridiculous. I was like, what? What they done
That
sissified
didn't
these
used to
kids.
happen.
And no, you're absolutely
Right. My
right.
nephew got that too.
That did not used to happen when I was a kid. You never saw anyone with a peanut allergy, and now people just now people don't can't have any bit of wheat in anything. Wheat didn't used to be something that made anyone sick.
That's
So I
because
don't know what they're
Monsanto's
putting in there.
on all the seed patents, and like you said, they,
Right.
they make fast growing plants, and then the weed killer that they use make plants get immune to it, so they make stronger weed killer every year, and that transfer into the food that we eat and into our body, so that could cause a lot of sickness and ailments too.
Yeah, that wheat, I think they talk about gluten. Gluten, I believe, is like in wheat bread or whatever. So they're like, I can't have gluten. And I think that's where a lot of it's coming from, whatever the hell that is.
And I just heard about
It's
gluten
the
in
soy
like the
too.
early 2000s. That's a lot of this stuff was within like the last 20 some odd years. This is, like I said, in the 1990s. No, there was no gluten sensitivities, no peanut allergies like that. Once
Right.
in a
You could
blue
drink
moon.
from the water hose outside.
Yeah, like it was told people and drink from a rusty water hose, no less. You know, and we were still here. So it's just interesting to see, you know, I just say all of that to say it's just really interesting to see. It feels like we're just being forced into somewhere, like you said, out of the sun, out of nature. We're no longer consuming real food. I don't care how much somebody want to be a raw vegan or whatever. At this point, I've just accepted that even the plants ain't real. So I'm going to eat and enjoy what I like, which is pig. So I'm going to get with that and just accept that, you know, I do the best I can with what I have because I'm with Wani. I'm not going out and picking nuts and berries and fruits and things off the trees. I'm just not.
I'm a vegan and I won't even do that. I like, what berry do I eat? I don't know what those are. I'll be
I used
poisoned
to
in
do that
10
as a
minutes.
kid, climb the conquer trees. We had blackberry fields, all that shit. I
But
used to
you're a
eat all
country
my fruit from
boy.
the block.
You know how to do it though.
We was a kid. We used to have it everywhere. We used to go to the park and get all the fruits we needed.
Yeah, we had all types of fruit trees in my grandmother's backyard, in my aunt's backyard. We used to just eat that stuff right off the tree. We would rinse it off or whatever, but
But Sister Nikki, you
we
see
didn't have
how
no
they don't have
issue.
them in the hood no more though. They cutting all the black. They don't bring those type of trees around no more.
My mama
When the
did.
Yeah,
last
and then
time
they
y'all
calling them
seen some
food
honeydew
deserts.
My
flowers?
mama did in her house. Well, before she had to move, but she had them trees. She even had donut peaches. Like my mom, she was serious about her trees. She wanted her lemons.
Dang, where's
She
that
wanted
house?
her
Hey, where's that
garden.
house at? Right? Is that house still up? You said she had donut peaches. Is that house still up?
Yeah, it's still there
I
up
want to
here
go
in
Mm-hmm.
find that
Sacramento,
house.
California, on Dry Creek Road.
Did y'all have them honeydew
We're
plants?
gonna swing by.
My uncle,
Where you
my
can eat the little string
Damn,
in the
that's
middle
my
of the
my
old
uncle
hood for
too.
flowers?
real, for real.
My uncle too. My uncle don't play about his garden. He grows watermelons, greens. He grows so much stuff. He got pomegranates, pomegranate tree, and matter of fact, I thank y'all for reminding me because I need to call Uncle
Them used to
Larry and
be
be
in the
like,
hood for real too. Pomegranate
I
trees.
need to come shopping and come get me some groceries and come get me some fruit and vegetables out of his garden.
That just goes to show because I am seeing a lot of more Black people growing their own food now. And I get what Wani and Kush are saying too, but if you really just don't trust them, you can, grow some of your own food. And but it's up to you and how you want to eat. It's just, I get what you're saying. You don't know what you're eating. There's a lot of food coming from China that has plastic in it. These people are literally making food with plastic. So you just don't know what you're eating all the
Ooh, that
time. You don't know what
lettuce.
you're
Did you see the rice one? Did you see the rice video
Yes.
they had?
Yeah, I saw it.
Why are they doing that though?
They're trying to kill us.
Because they're assholes.
Yeah, because they don't like us. And
They're
we
trying
like
to kill us.
Well,
money.
I don't eat their stuff, but I'm just saying that what's the point?
They just trying to.
They
Are
started
they
doing that after
are
the
they are they
TPP bill was
They're
passed a
evil. You
month
get too
ago.
much
We
money,
started
you get
shipping our
bored.
chicken over there.
I guess so. Are they feeding that to their own people?
No, I
They
bet
only
you they
sent it
not.
to us.
Oh, well, that's nice.
Those
Cause
people act like they don't care.
we send our chicken over there to get processed. We kill it over here and we send it to China to get processed and they send it back.
Wow,
Process what in
what
what
a waste.
way? What
Like
more do you have to do to it after it's killed?
Oh,
chop it up and wrap it up and send it back over
What do you
here.
have to do? Put it in a mummy or something?
No, they just put it back, put it in a
Bless it
plastic, but
and
they chop it
escort
up
it to
for us.
heaven?
and what's crazy too is even when you get seeds,
Good
if you want to
God.
plant your gardens, you got to make sure you actually either have the seeds from the fruit that the uncontaminated fruit or vegetable that somebody had,
Heirloom seed.
or
Okay,
or if
see,
you
Hello,
now
I
go,
would
this is
like
the
to
or if
tell
part
you
y'all
that's
go
what
buy,
confusing.
brothers do in Jamaica.
or if you go buy seeds, you got to make sure it's non. It says non-GMO on there. It's a damn
Look
shame.
See,
at the
this is
God.
the
Hello,
Yeah, they call heirloom seeds.
We're gonna
Nikki.
who's speaking? I can't see.
This is
Yes.
Strala. I know my name is I do a lot of different pages.
Oh, hi.
Nikki, do you know what I've learned about what they do in Jamaica and what they've started to bring over from Jamaica to Dominican Republic? They started to cut up kangaroo tails from China and they bring them over to Jamaica. Them oxtails are kangaroo tails.
they don't
Hold
have
on, they got
I know,
kangaroos in
kangaroos in
man.
China?
China.
Are you
No,
serious?
No, they don't have kangaroos there. Why would they have a bunch of kangaroo tails and
Sis, I'm
singing
trying to
them?
tell you what they bringing over
Well, I'm not
from.
saying you're lying, but I'm
So they get it from
confused about how
Australia?
long
Can
they've
I
been
can
in
I tell y'all
kangaroo
what's
tails.
going on?
Yes, tell us how the
And it's
kangaroo
it's coming
tails.
even to Dominican Republic, because we all eat oxtails in the islands. They are bringing them out. Them things are really really thick, and they have many like the meat around it is too fat, and they're saying that they know that that's kangaroo tail. Ain't no way in the world. How
That's
the
why
hell we got this
kangaroos
many
be.
oxtails all around the world like that for
Well, you see,
Jamaican
that's why
oxtails?
kangaroos be smacking people upside the head for
My
that.
love, my love. Them Chinese people are bringing them all from over there to Jamaica really easily, and from there they bring it over here.
I definitely believe that. Them Chinese people be doing some sneaky ass shit.
They do
I'm
a
telling
lot.
y'all thinking that y'all eating oxtails over here? No, it's not. Y'all untethered Dacity sisters telling y'all Miss Strella from Dominican Republic. I'm not from Dominican Republic. My family is, and I'm getting a lot of
You're a
intel.
Dominican. You're a Dominican.
Family, but you know, Wani, I'ma tell y'all the real from the real.
You have an accent. You ain't. Never mind.
G- Sis, but
I'm
I'm telling
smiling.
y'all the real
I'm
from the real.
smiling. I'm smiling.
Okay, now Australia and China does have like a new deal they worked out with selling kangaroo meat.
All them
Uh-oh.
oxtails are not
Uh-oh.
oxtails. Those are kangaroo tails.
Uh-oh.
I
That's
Well,
promise
something
you.
I'm into
Well,
suspicious.
eating
whatever
exotic
whatever
food, so I might
kangaroo
try
tails is
some
gonna have a
kangaroo tails
25%
dipped in jerk
fur.
sauce.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask you to post some evidence in Jumbotron. And
I
Can
want
y'all
to
do y'all
ask.
Google searches? Do it
we're gonna
yourselves.
go
Is it
to
It's
red
already
meat?
known.
Now,
It's
let me ask you a
known.
we're gonna
question.
go to
What's the
go
difference
ahead.
between oxes and kangaroos? How is that a big difference?
Ain't
They're
kangaroos
both
like big ass
herbivores. I'm gonna
rat
try it.
dogs?
If you know where they selling it at, when I get on that side of town, I'm gonna try me some kangaroo tails. That sounds kind of cool. I ain't never ate no kangaroo before. You know, I'm
Okay,
into
slow
eating
down
game
now.
meat. I'm into
You've
eating
been watching
game
too
meat,
much
but
anime.
I'm a game meat eater. So I ain't never hunted no kangaroo before. So
You can't. They too busy slapping us.
I beat the shit out of a kangaroo. I knock a kangaroo the fuck
I
out.
don't want to eat nothing that can fight me like a human.
They got four fists.
Right. They ain't gonna be having the tail, so I'll really whoop his ass. I'll be eating your goddamn tail, motherfucker.
All right, we're gonna give Cheryl last words. Go ahead, Cheryl.
How y'all doing? She just messed up my. I love me some
Ain't that many
oxtails,
oxtails in the world, my love?
but I won't be eating them no more after hearing that. Lord,
Them
but
Chinese people bring.
I
Them
tell you,
kangaroos gonna be looking like German shepherds.
yeah, but since the weather's been nice, cause I'm here in Georgia, and the weather's been real nice down here, and I feel so much better. I've been outside because I've been in my garden, and when you outside like that. I mean, your energy level goes up. Y'all right about the sun. I mean, it hasn't been, hot. It's just been real nice out there. And you just moving around. I mean, it's so different than the winter because I can't stand the cool air. I mean, that just gets to my bones. I'm 61, so that's arthritis right there. But here lately, I cleaned out my gardens and been out there planting. And I have so much energy. I have so much energy. But thank God I don't have allergies.
Yeah, somebody mentioned that they plant male trees in the in the neighborhoods. I was reading an article or watching, I forgot where it came from, but they were talking about how city planners in the United States put male trees at, like, everything goes back to money. Male trees shoot a lot of pollen, and I read that they have male trees in the inner city now to fuck with people's allergies, because again, that sends you to the hospital, which gives the hospital more revenue, more medication. And then male trees send a lot of stuff out on your cars. So now what do you have to do? You got to pay for a car wash. It's like all related to some money, which is ridiculous.
So the male trees out there just ejaculating all over the place.
Yep, that's
Yeah,
what
get
that's
rid of
coming
that
from.
tree nut.
Yep, yep.
And ain't no
A
females
whole
to
bunch
catch
of
it.
incel trees.
Yeah, ain't no females to catch it. And then it was
Incel trees.
also, I was reading that back in the day, I can remember in the 90s and the 80s, late 80s maybe, in Alabama, the old folks had peach tree. It used to be like fruit. You could like get fruit out of people's yard and stuff, but you don't see that anymore. I was told that they gotten the fruit trees, got rid of the fruit trees because that's free food. So you won't. It's all about governmental control. This shit is wild. It's a master plan to keep us away from food. Number one, keep us out the sun because the sun heals us, according to Dr. Jack Cruz, MD. Number two, keep us away from healthy food, which was growing in grandmama front yard and auntie backyard on the peach tree. And number three, to take away female trees because that creates a balance. Like I think Kush or somebody said earlier, it does create a balance in the neighborhood. You have a bunch of male trees that ejaculate all over the place, mess your car up, but moreover, it messes your allergies up. So you need medication. Sometimes I struggle to understand where are we? Are we in hell?
I don't know, but people do have a bunch of peanut allergies. She brought that up, and that's actually true. And, when I was in school, people didn't have all these special diets. And if I eat this, I'm going to die. And they really are going to die. And the rest of the world doesn't understand it. You go somewhere talking about, does this have peanuts in it? Go to West Africa and say, does this have peanuts in it? They will lie to your face. Nope. And everything has peanut sauce. They'll say no and you'll be dead.
And
That's
what do
Yeah,
one
they
because
thing
they'll
have?
they
lose their
do.
they'll lose
Mm.
their airway access.
Yeah,
They
Yes.
and
lose
then
that
you got
airway
the
access quick.
and then you got the EpiPen. And they gotta give you, they gotta shoot you up with adrenaline.
Yep.
And how much money is an EpiPen? How much does an EpiPen cost?
$100 or something.
If you got insurance, it's covered, but if you don't, yeah. And then you got to
But
keep
it's
one because they expire. And once they expire, you got to get another one because you got to keep it on hand just in case.
More
do
So
it
money.
yeah,
Yeah.
they have one. And and now
money.
they have these. Do you guys have community gardens? Now they have these like community gardens where they make a garden. The city, there'll be a garden and people in the
Yeah,
neighborhood get
Mhm.
together. And but you
yeah.
gotta
Milwaukee
pay.
has those. Yeah.
Okay. So
We
yeah,
have a lot
they
of
got their
in-
hand in
Well,
everything.
we have a lot of interesting people trying to come up.
yeah, we'll make Jesus
Yeah,
Ogo the
look.
last speaker. I'm curious to see what he got to say.
Can I ask one
Mhm.
quick question before Jesus come up? Has
Yes.
anybody heard that I think the government has patents, so it's like there is something with seeds now. So if people
Yes,
are
there's a lot of weird
Monsanto's.
things with seeds. Definitely.
so if you try to take, like, I have a whole bunch of watermelon seeds in my house right now. If I ever wanted to, grow my own watermelon. But I was told that I think the government or somebody, there are certain seeds, you can't just have your own seeds now. You can't just pop seeds out of fruit and then go,
Right.
I'm going to grow it.
Right.
I was like, okay, that's the next level of control now. Even if I get a seed out
Right.
of a piece of fruit, I don't have the right to that seed. So
Yeah,
I'm a,
that's why you
Y'all
gotta
remember
buy
during the
heirloom
COVID?
seeds.
Y'all remember during COVID they were controlling what seeds people could have and could keep in their house and could buy. Do y'all remember that?
Yeah,
vaguely.
Monsanto's own it, most of the seed patents around the world.
Okay, so I'm not far off. Because I was like, I knew I heard something like that. So even if people want to grow their own stuff or whatever like that, we ain't got the resources. Even if you have the resource, you don't have the resource.
Yeah,
That's
some
some
people like to
bullshit. That's a
control
damn shame.
everything.
All right, we're gonna go with Jesus. Jesus, you got last words? Has Jesus left the building? I think Jesus left the building. Interesting.
Well, then let us pray.
Wow.
I was ready.
I had to hear that.
That's not
Since
right.
since Jesus decided to leave prematurely, I'm gonna let Mr. Lucas. I'm not even gonna pretend.
Oh Lord,
What?
no.
Yes, Lucas.
I can't do
Yes,
this.
Lucas. What's on your mind?
I've actually have a couple things on my mind. I mean,
Okay.
me personally, the conversation that we're having now, and this might be a coincidence,
We
but the uh the same things you were talking about was on the Irish Life Spaces, and they were talking about growing their food, how their government is trying to exterminate them. It just reminds me so much of
Was it
that Irish
potatoes or
chat.
actual real food?
Let's be good. I don't want to be good, but let's be good.
I'm trying.
I got two devils on each shoulder. I don't even know what's happening.
Well, fuck it, just let them
Never
both
mind.
talk.
Actually, I wanted to hear from Jesus, but
Okay, so he wasn't trolling us. Okay. He just wanted to tell us that we're all being
well,
poisoned globally.
no.
Okay,
yeah,
I
he
can
said
understand that.
we're all the same person is what
Yeah,
he's trying
we
to
have
tell
the
us.
same issues.
Who,
Mm,
Jesus? Duh, Jesus,
No,
we know
No,
Lucas.
that.
that was
No,
Lucas.
Lucas.
Lucas
no.
continue telling us that we're all the same people with the same issues. Go ahead. We want to hear
Yeah.
more. Go ahead.
Well, I just
Well,
talked to a very senior citizen today, and he said it's really up to your generation. There's not much you can do. And it's kind of like survival of the fittest in the way. Because if you're breathing in this shit and if your food is poisoned and God knows what else, I mean, it doesn't matter what country you really live in and who you are. I'm just saying that he just gave up on hope. He's like, yeah, people die all the time. You know, that's the way life goes.
do you guys have that rule where in your respective states, this is for anyone in the room, where you're not allowed to catch water? So if it's raining, you say, hey, I want to drink this rainwater. That's against the law.
I heard certain states do. That's craziness.
They're very oppressive.
California has that rule.
I think it does in some places. The things that they're doing are oppressive. You
This
know,
this is some
you
nice.
need a license to fish. You need a license to, like, I can't get a fish.
Wow.
They own the fish in the lakes. They own the water. They own the
Mm-mm,
sky.
mm-mm. It's some.
They,
There's so much
I can't.
chemtrails being spread that I would not advise to take rainwater anymore because of the chemtrail situation. This is pretty bad. So that's I mean, it's too
Everywhere
bad
doesn't
that
have
it's
the
like that.
chemtrails though.
It's state
Yeah,
law in
but
Hawaii. You got to catch your rainwater.
Mm,
Water catchment.
yeah.
Well, that's
Well,
crazy. How the hell do you just take over and just decide you're gonna own nature? This
Yeah,
is something like this is something that is organically
they own the
produced, and
water.
somebody just gonna step up and say, this belongs to me, and you can't do that. It's gonna be
And
against the law
trying
for
to
you. It's
fly
like
to
kiss my
Mars
ass.
and stick a flag in that.
well,
They already
Right.
went over to Antarctica and stuck a flag. Multiple countries stuck a flag in Antarctica. This is mine. I own this part of it.
well, well,
Yeah.
well. In the space on that note, to answer that question, how does a group of people think they own everything? Let's go back to Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, page 238 of the ISIS papers. Welsing says, "quote The Melville's linkage of evil and dread with the condition of albinism parallels my own thesis that the absence of the neuropeptide melanin." Um, the absence of this black pigment in the skin and other aspects of the nervous system critically impairs the depths of sensitivity of the nervous system and the ability to tune in with a total spectrum of energy frequencies in the universe. She says, quote, the deficiency of sensory awareness sets the stage for the absence of harmony, which is evil. So she says these groups of people are not, they're missing something. That's what Dr. Welsing, Francis Cress Welsing, MD, said. She said groups of people are missing a critical component that allows them to communicate with the universe to allow them to know what's right from wrong, which is dangerous as fuck. So whereas the rest of us go outside and say that's a beautiful tree, that tree is a sentient being, and I need to treat it with respect. Um, this group of people comes over and says it's just a tree. Dr. Sharshy McIntyre said that. She said that the African man, before he cuts the tree down, he prays for it. He does a ceremony. Then he cuts the tree down. She said the Indian man walks up to the tree, does a ceremony for it, explains to the tree that you're going to use. She said, the brother tree, I'm going to use you for a boat, and you're going to live in my family for generations, helping me. I'm sorry to cut you down, but I have to cut you down. He pours libation and he cuts it down. Dr. Sharshy McIntyre said the European walks up and says, "Chomp, what? It was just a tree." That's that lack of sensory perception that Dr. Welsing was talking about. It's evil.
Avatar,
But
what I
that's
say
a
about
But
Avatar, they
that
pray before they do something with nature.
but
Right.
but
that's a
people,
just
they
a
chose
quick
to
question real quick.
pray to
Do
the
you think that
Ethiopic god.
that mentality could have came from back in the ice age?
Yes, we do think
Yeah.
that.
Dr. Welsing said it was, she said a lot of interesting things. She said it was diet. She said that group of people ate some, they kept eating some they weren't supposed to eat, and genetically they changed. Some scholars, such as Michael Bradley, who wrote The Iceman Inheritance, argue that during the Younger Dryas, which is the ice age, they didn't have good nutrition, so the body genetically altered to adapt to extreme conditions, which increased violence and violent propensities that never went away. Whatever it is, I don't know. I just know that it is, and I'll leave on this note. My father used to say, "It doesn't matter why you hit me. It just matters that you hit me." Guys, I enjoyed y'all. And I will see y'all next time. Juan, did you have any last words?
Good night.
Nikki,
Good night.
see y'all later. Peace out.